Just make sure everything is working, because I have no idea what I'm doing as usual. Okay, it sounds good. So I will go ahead and distribute the link real quick. So give this just a couple of minutes before anything happens. Let me do this. Because once again, I have very little idea what I'm doing. And it's just me for the moment. I don't know who all will join in tonight. So at the moment, it's still just me. There we go. Okay, I think that's just about all of them. Yeah, that's about all I can put in. Okay, so yeah, that's about all I can put in. Double check here. Okay, so there we go. So tonight we are going to be talking about storytelling in books. And the reason we're doing this live is because I'm lazy and I don't want to do more editing. So instead of editing, I've decided that I'm going to do a live stream tonight and Friday night. And hopefully those who can't join tonight will join in tomorrow. Red's going to be a bit late because he lost track of time when he's coming back from where he's trying to sell. And I have no idea who else will join us tonight. So at least you can look forward to Red showing up later for anyone who does show up. And as usual for the Fireside Chats, this is pretty much going to be audio only. I don't have any like visual stuff for this kind of thing. So while I babble away here like an idiot, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the link gets put out on X. Because once again, I have no idea what I am doing. I'm just kind of here. So, one thing I want to talk about right now is storytelling has been a part of human history for practically as long as we have been around. From ancient campfire stories talking of the things hiding out in the dark, or talking of heroic tales of other people, survival stories, any sort of storytelling you can really think of. It has been around for practically as long as human history has gone. And it's evolved alongside us quite a bit. So we've gone from the original campfire stories, stories of, practically anything, and we've evolved it along with our species as we've gone, and storytelling has really become diversified far, far more than I think anybody has really ever thought of. Like, you could name any kind of genre, and you can guarantee there's a book in it. Like, I mean anything, you can guarantee there'll be a book. So, I figured that tonight, and then again on Friday, when hopefully we have some more people, we will talk about our favorite books and why they are our favorites. Like, what is it about the storytelling? What is it about the writing that really gets you invested in a story? What gets your mind going to be able to connect to this book and just not put it down? And I don't want to get into the politics of authors. I don't care about that. But for me, some of the favorite books I've had were based on games. Like, I have the Halo books sitting on my bookshelf, most of the Resident Evil game novelizations. I've even got a couple of MechWarrior books from the Dark Ages, and 2 or 3 books for what is it? No, that's a repeat one I have. For some reason, I have 2 versions of one of the Halo books. But I also have a book that is the novelization of the game Descent 3. And I don't have the novelization of the first 2. I never found them. Like, I used to go to a used bookstore a long time ago when I first came up here to where I am now. And I used to have, like, all the books from Animorphs from K. Applegate. And I mean all of them. I had the entire thing. Only now, I don't have them anymore. I gave them to my nephew some years back. And a lot of the books on my shelf are now graphic novels, like I said, the novelization of games like Halo, Resident Evil, Descent 3. I have one from Doom 3, the novelization called Maelstrom. And I also have, I'm going to probably shout out another channel here because I have no idea what I'm doing. I have a book by the channel Bedtime Stories, which all their videos they put into a couple book volume, and I have volume 2. And I love it because a lot of the stories are, they're kind of creepy. They're campfire stories, essentially. They're like, I know everybody way back had the Scholastic Book Fair, if anyone remembers those anymore, where you could get practically any kind of book then. And I remember probably the most striking books that always drew your attention were scary stories to tell in the dark. Like, just looking at the cover of that got you involved because it was just an amazing cover. And I don't recall who did the art. Let me look. Who did the art for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark? Stephen Gamble. He did the black and white illustrations, and honestly, I mean, you looked at that book's cover, you looked at the illustration of that, and you knew you were in for a good time. You were in for something scary. And then they tried to make a terrible movie adaptation of it. But where am I going with this? I don't know where I'm going with this because I don't have anyone to bounce things off of at the moment. But let's go back to the idea of the Scholastic Book Fair. The old book fairs, I don't know if they do them anymore in elementary or even junior highs anymore. Because where I went to school was a K through 8th, and they had the Scholastic Book Fair that would come in like for a week once a year. And all the books there were ones that you wouldn't find if unless you were looking at the Scholastic Book Fairs. They were like young adult novel books, kids books, stuff like Goosebumps and Outernet, Animorphs. It was the kind of stories that it was the kind of books that you kind of expect for that kind of age group, and probably nothing like what we have now. Like I don't even know if they have Scholastic Book Fairs anymore. I don't even know if Scholastic is still a thing. I hope it is. But also going into a little more with that, with I think that the Scholastic Book Fair was probably where a lot of us really found our first books that we loved. And a lot of it was probably like you looked at the cover of the book, it was like, oh, this looks interesting. I wonder what it's about. And then you get into it, and you just, before you know it, you're reading it all night with your flashlights or with the light on. And you just, before you realize it, it's like the next morning, and you're like, oh, I just spent all night reading. Like, you don't even realize the time passed. It just kind of did. And a lot of the books that start out like that, I think that's probably where a lot of us from, I don't even know what I am, I guess millennial? I'm a 90s kid. I grew up in the 90s. So I'm going to guess that that time period, a lot of us got our first books at the book fairs. Probably the first place a lot of people found Harry Potter books, and we all know what happened with that, with the absolute worldwide phenomenon that Harry Potter became. I mean, just from the first book, I kind of recall there were news stories about like lines going out the doors for bookstores to get those books. Like, I don't even know how many of the first ones sold. I think it was in like the 100 millions. I don't know. Let me look. Yeah, 120 million copies worldwide of just the first book. And that launched that series completely. And I'm not even going to talk about where it is now because honestly, I don't even know where it is now anymore. But like I said, you can guarantee that a lot of the people who read Harry Potter that first time probably picked it up from their book fair. And they fell in love with that universe and the stories that came out of that. What are you doing, cat? Like I said, it probably sounds like I'm just rambling because I am. I'm not very good on my own. I need people to bounce things off of. And unfortunately, I don't have anyone to bounce things off of at the moment. So, well, evolving from that, we started out with the Scholastic Book Fair, and you kind of fell in love with reading at that point. You kept going back every year to see what pops up next. What's the next book that you're gonna find? And I mean, for a few years, like when I recall it, a lot of those books were part of like a major series. Like you'd find like a random Goosebumps book or a book that's part of a series further in, and you're like, oh, I want to read this series now and see where it goes. Like Artemis Fowl, the first one of those, I probably got a Scholastic Book Fair. I know there were a lot of picture books too. I know, like, I don't want to say comic books because they weren't strictly comic books, but they weren't at a time where graphic novels were a widely considered thing. But I am going to say graphic novels count for tonight. And on Friday night as well. We'll talk graphic novels as well. Because as far as I'm concerned, anything with print media counts for reading. So, short stories, novels, graphic novels, comics, practically anything that you can read, I think counts for what this is going to be. So, like even like the old Peanuts comic books, Garfield comic books, I got a few of those in there. The Calvin and Hobbes anthologies, like all that counts as the love of reading, because if you didn't know how to read, you couldn't enjoy that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, you could look at the pictures, but without being able to read, you wouldn't be able to understand any of it. So literacy is still very, very important. Oh, hello, Arrow of Fate. And yeah, the original Garfield ones were great. If I recall, I actually have a book that's the original Garfield's, before he became the design he is now. Yeah, I have one called Volume 2 that was like $15 I picked up somewhere. I don't even recall where. But it's Volume 2 of the first 6 actual like comic books of the Garfield series. And from there, I think that's kind of where my love of comic books came from. Because I didn't really grow up with like DC Comics or MCU comics. The stuff I grew up on was the Sunday Funnies and Calvin and Hobbes, Peanuts, Mad, of course, Mad Magazine. Cat, what are you doing? Sorry, my cat's being a pain in the leg. Because she keeps trying to jump on it. Like, just looking at my current bookshelf, I have stuff like the Zombie Survival Guide now. I have a whole thing on Looney Tunes, like the actual like art styles and the history of Looney Tunes down in there. I got some photography stuff from when I was going through that in college. Because I have a degree in photography and it is completely useless. Not gonna lie. I mean, I'm still gonna say that counts. Having cutouts from some of the old paper comics, that definitely still counts as having printed media, because that the Sunday Funnies are. I don't know if those are still a thing. I don't think newspapers are really still a thing. But for all the Gen Alpha, I guess is what we're calling them now. I don't know anymore. It was Gen X, then Gen Y, then Gen Z, then Gen Alpha, and no one really explained any of that to me. As far as I know, I'm a 90s kid. That's where my definition is. I grew up in that weird time period where we had both printed media, we had the comic books, and then we started having online comics. Like people started posting like their own websites with their own.
Since everyone's doing it mostly on Friday, I'm gonna switch and do it on Friday. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, just since everyone else was doing every other person was gonna be on Friday, I thought I'd just be on Friday as well.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Hi, Red.
He's not in yet. He's got another 20 minutes before he shows up.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, it's
I'll
just me right now babbling to myself online.
Okay, I'll see you Friday then.
All right. Have a good one, both.
See ya.
Hey.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, it said I connected, and I was like, hello, I can see the thing.
Hello, Red.
I have
Oh,
no idea.
hello.
All I know is I am
I
live at
forgot.
the
I
moment,
forgot.
babbling to myself.
I left. I left the voice call right as you said hi. So my bad.
No worries, dude. It's nice
But
talking to you for a second.
yeah.
We'll see you on Friday, Ebola.
See you.
So I've been babbling to myself for the past 20 minutes.
Mhm. Per our usual arrangement.
Practically, yeah. Yeah, I was talking a little bit about the Scholastic book fairs. Do you remember those?
Oh, hell yeah, I remember those.
Are they still a thing?
Yes, they are.
Okay, I had no idea if they were still a thing or not.
They are. I just got my kids some books through those.
Very nice. So
Yeah,
I
the
am
best
glad
part
that's
was
still a thing. And like I said much earlier, I'm pretty sure that kind of area is where the love of a lot of reading came from. For a lot of us, was our first book love came from the Scholastic book fairs.
I really enjoyed them. I thought it was, a cool way to get books that were like age appropriate or whatever, instead of like having to go to a specific bookstore. I would say my specifically where my love of books really started was seeing how much that my parents read, especially my mom growing up. Like my mom was always reading a book every night, and then while we were sitting on the couch and stuff, and then we would put on movies and stuff, and then she would set her book down and then continue reading after it was over and stuff. But I used to see her read a lot, and she had a million books, so I was always kind of like, man, I want to get into those. And then but all of them were way past my reading level or too adult for me. But
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's kind of that's kind of where I got started with it.
Like, can you imagine some kid just started reading and then the first book they read is like Along Came a Spider by James Patterson?
That's actually, it's funny that you say that. I went through my mom's books and I remember seeing Kiss the Girls on the bookshelf when I was a little kid, which is the sequel to the Along Came a Spider, right? And
Yeah.
then so I was like, oh man, like I wanted to know what it was when I was a little kid because I was like, Kiss the Girls, what's that? You kind of an interesting title, especially when you're little. And then so I had asked my mom about that. I thought this was a funny aside. So I had brought it up to her. This is like 10 years ago. Um, I brought that book up to her and she was like, "Oh, like there's some creepy stuff in that book." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, like you'll know what I'm talking about." And then so I had asked my sister Rachel about that book and she had read it and she's like, "Oh yeah, she's just like, "Yeah, the thing with the snake, yeah, like wait till you get there." And I was like, "Well, what is it?" And she's like, "No, no, no, I ain't telling you nothing." And so I went through my parents' barn through all these boxes of books until I found Along Came a Spider and then Kiss the Girls. I read Along Came a Spider first. The book is much better than the movie. It's very
Of
good.
course.
Um, and then I finally got to that book, which, by the way, it's fantastic because you don't actually find out who one of the killers is until like literally the last, like 3 pages from the book being over. It's awesome. You never actually find out who it is until then. It's so cool. But I was like, what is this thing with a snake? And I've been waiting for weeks because I had to read the other book first, and then I finally got to it, and it is so gross. It's so nasty. I was just like I don't want this YouTube stuff to be restricted by me describing what it is in this book. But if you ever get the chance to read Kiss the Girls, there is in fact a scene with a snake that is disgusting and so gnarly. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I remember seeing my mom read that when I was a little kid, and I was like, that's what you were reading while I'm just running around having fun in the living room? You monster.
Yeah, I think
Oh, man.
Era of Fate says Jack and Jill was the third book in the series.
Yeah, those are all the Alex Cross books. They're
Okay.
good stuff. Yeah, he's this black detective out of DC, and the first one is this guy is killing people, and and then there's a kidnapping of these kids, of like these they're political officials, like all the kids and I mean all the Congress people and stuff like that in DC. All their kids
I
go to
think
the
Tom
same
Clancy
school.
dubbed them Diplo brats.
Yeah. Well, two of these kids get kidnapped, and then at the same time, there's this guy, while they're trying to figure out where these kids are, there's this guy that had killed some people, and he has split personalities, and then there Alex is like interrogating him, trying to figure that out, and he's kind of like a reoccurring character in some of the other books. And then Kiss the Girls is about two different serial killers competing in a like they live on opposite end. One lives on the East Coast, the other one lives on the West Coast. One's name is the Gentleman Caller, who murders couples, and then the other one's name is Casanova, and he kidnaps women and keeps them in a harem. And this dude, he's the one who does stuff with a snake. It is super gross and weird, and he wears like masks and stuff. But they know each other, and they send letters back and forth, and they're competing with each other on what they're doing. And one of them, Casanova, kidnaps Alex's niece. I forget who her relation to him, and then so that's how he gets involved in the case. It's a fantastic book. And it's like
Okay.
500 pages. Good stuff. Good stuff. It's way better than the movie, even though I do like the movie because, I mean, who doesn't like Carrie Ells? I mean, Robin Hood Men in Tights, anybody?
It's so weird,
But
like,
yeah.
when you think of Carrie Ells, like, the first thing I think of is Saw, actually, not Robin Hood Men in Tights. Yeah, the first Saw
I know.
movie I think of with that one.
Yeah, and well, he's so good in that movie too. But I
I
mean, I
recall
also
there
think of
was,
The
like,
Princess Bride. And...
what was the name? I think Alex Rider, if you remember any of those books, like
Oh yeah,
Stormbreaker.
yeah.
Yeah, it was like a
And
kid
Maximum
version of
Ride.
James Bond.
Yeah, those. I think. Yeah, I read Maximum Ride, which is the second one, I think.
It's either second or
Oh
third.
wait, no. Wait, did he write? Or wait, no, you're talking about Alex Rider. That's by somebody different. I'm Maximum Ride. Those
That's
are
the
the
kids that
ones
have
where
wings.
yeah, they're like the Kid X-Men type thing, where they're like mutants or something that escape. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, that's some good stuff too. But the
Yeah, I think
Alex
they are.
Rider
I
stuff,
think
who?
James Patterson actually wrote Maximum Ride.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was getting the two different series mixed up because I was thinking of James Patterson because yeah, he wrote a bunch of different stuff. I mean, a lot of people make fun of him because of the short
Anthony
chapters and stuff
Horowitz.
like that. Yes,
That's
yes,
who
yes, yes,
wrote
yes.
those.
Yeah,
And
Stormbreaker was
apparently
the
there's
first one.
there's 14 books in that series.
Oh, holy shit. I
And I
wrote,
think
I
I
mean, I
only
read
read
the
up to Scorpia, which was the
sixth
fifth
or
book.
seventh. Oh, the fifth one. I'd have to, here, let me, what is that called? What is that book called? That book series?
Alex Rider.
Yeah, Alex Rider. Alex Rider book.
Yeah, Stormbreaker was the first book in that series.
Yes, dude. So yeah, I read Stormbreaker, Point Blank, Skeleton Key, Eagle Strike. I'm not sure if I got to Scorpia, but I know I read at least the first four. Those, holy crap! I didn't realize there was so many of those. But yeah, those are really good. I liked Stormbreaker a lot, and the movie version was actually a lot more comedic and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was missing some of the stuff. But that had you remember how they used a gun that you could hear your own heartbeat, and
Oh
then they
yeah.
turn it off and he passes out? I thought that was so interesting
Yeah, because
how they did that.
it's the I don't know what they call it exactly, but it's essentially tricking your brain and thinking your heart stopped because it can no longer hear it.
Yeah, and because he hears his heartbeat pounding in his ears, but nobody else is reacting to it. And they're like, it's directional, and they point it at him, and he starts hearing his own heartbeat, and then it stops, and he thinks that he's dead. But yeah, Stormbreaker was really cool. I
And
like
yes,
that one a
Arrow of
lot.
Fate. Maximum Ride is the avian human hybrids called the Flock,
Some,
read by James Patterson.
yes. Yeah, well, like I said, a lot of people make fun of
And there are 9
James
books in
Patterson,
that series.
But he, as far as being able to write in different genres and keep it interesting and stuff, I mean, he's super prolific, but it's also, I find his books to be super easy to digest because of the short chapters. They're like 2 to 3 page chapters.
Yeah, for
But yeah, I,
well, I think that's for like the YA audience. They're shorter chapters like that, but I think some of the more adult ones are longer chapters.
well, he also did a book where it was, I read this one by James Patterson. It was also by Andrew Gross called The Jester, which I liked a lot. Um, it's historical fiction set in the year 1096 during the First Crusade, and I like that book a lot. And then he did another one. God, what was it? It was about this because my mom had a shitload of his books, and then so I just kind of like picked out of them and grabbed a whole bunch of different ones and read them over time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
And
my mom has a
he,
ton of them stored somewhere too, because I recall she had a
oh,
bunch too.
well, they're fun. And when I was younger, especially like in high school and stuff, where you only had like 2 or 3 page chapters, like you could literally pick it up for 5 minutes, get through a chapter or whatever, and then if you had to go do something or whatever, or if you were easily distracted. And then sometimes you'd be like, oh my gosh, I read like 15 chapters, and it's only like 30 pages or something like that, but you felt more accomplished. Whereas
Oh
like the
yeah,
other like books that I'm reading now, it's like, you've got freaking 40 page chapters or whatever.
oh yeah.
But yeah, his books are real big page turners. But I also, I mean, if we're just talking about right now about books that we read growing up, my dad gave me all the Star Trek novels from when I by James Blish
Wow.
that are I have God, there's so many of them. But yeah, they came out in 1967, going all the way through the 70s, and I have all of the original ones still that my dad gave me. He gave me a whole bunch of Star Trek novels that and all these other science fiction novels from like the 70s and 80s. But yeah, these were written from going from 1967 all the way up until November of 1977, and there's 12 of them. I have all of those, which are really fun. I liked all those books, especially just like because you think of Kirk and Spock and all that like as the actors in the show, which
Yeah.
I liked the original Star Trek a lot growing up, so it made it really fun. But yeah, I loved all of those books. And then, oh my gosh, he gave me so many of these like awesome sci-fi novels and stuff. But
Well, I recall
it's so
one you were
funny.
talking about a lot was the three body problem.
Oh my gosh! So they turned that into a show on Netflix. If anybody is interested, but yeah, that's
Is
by
it
a
any good?
Chinese writer. Oh, it's excellent. The guys who made,
That
and this
alone
isn't
is
a
impressive.
distraction. No, and this isn't a detraction because I actually, again, they made some of the best TV in my opinion at one point. It just ended really shitty. It's made by the guys who headed up the Game of Thrones series before they shit the bed with the last 2 seasons. Um, was their first show back, I believe. I don't think that they had done anything since, but they took the it's by a Chinese writer named Sixin Liu, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's Cixin space Liu. It's very interesting. I mean, it's a Chinese name. Such a fantastic
Yeah, so
series.
we're definitely saying it
Um,
wrong.
well, like the books are more like all these different scientific things. So like what the three body problem is in science, not talking about the book series, but in science is any planet that has 3 stars that it orbits, like how our planet Earth orbits our sun. If it is orbiting 3 stars, its path is completely unpredictable, meaning that there is no amount of science or software equations that you can run to actually know exactly where it's going to be because of the factors of the gravitational pull of all 3 planets make it totally unpredictable. And then, so thus, what this story is about, I think how it starts out is very interesting in that basically around Earth, all these different scientists start killing themselves. And so it starts as kind of like this murder mystery. Why is this happening? What's going on? And then it starts introducing characters. Well, the books
And then you wonder if Mark
are
Wahlberg's going to show up.
yeah, it's not, luckily it's not the happening. But
So nobody talks to
the
plastic trees.
no, and they so what they do that's so good in the show versus in the book is because the book is absolutely written by a science nerd. And then so the characters are much more of a vessel to talk about interesting concepts, whereas the TV show does a way better job of humanizing these characters and making it more interesting.
Okay.
So that's what makes the show really cool. But because it's one of those shows where I feel like the less you know going in and that you just commit yourself to, it's absolutely fascinating and interesting. I
So is it one of those
absolutely
things where, like,
love.
if you watch the show, then you'll probably get into the books after that?
Yes, and I would say, and they are slight, like what is happening, like the totality of events are the same, but um, they condense certain characters, like where like this was two characters, they make it into one. Sort of like there are some changes, but they are way more human in the book and way more, I mean, sorry, in the show, and way more interesting as far as that stuff's concerned. I don't think that it detracts from anything and I'm super excited about because I think the second season is coming out here. I it will be in it's coming out this year. I think in just a couple months because they had put out a trailer for it. Um, but I really enjoyed the first season. I thought it was excellently executed, and plus it does this thing that in a lot of sci-fi and stuff that has to do with like Independence Day or other such stuff where they bring in aliens that it turns in like it's less about like humans fighting with each other and more of like lets everybody come together to solve a problem type stuff. And I really enjoy that because it's like, it's humans versus this instead of, like different groups of people fighting each other sort of thing.
It's hi-fi.
Yes, and I really like it, but it is fucking bleak, dude. There is some stuff in that show that is so dark and so bleak, but it is awesome. But where it ends up going and how they go about stuff, again, I could sit here and I could talk about that for an hour just talking about like the intricacies of the show, but I feel like it's best served to anybody who's listening to just do yourself a favor and just watch the show. And then if you start getting into this and you're like, holy shit, like I really want to watch or I really want to read the books first, totally go for it. I read the books first and then have been enjoying the show. And they're basically condensed. The first book is the first season, and there is three books. So unlike the Game of Thrones show, which these guys
There's an actual
were
ending.
yeah, there's like it's already finished, and there is a fourth book that was written by a different author that kind of jumps like way, way far into the future about some stuff, but it was authorized by the original author. But again, I like the characters in the show way more. Like they're way more human and interesting. But again, it still contains all the fun science stuff. But yes, the three body problem absolutely fantastic. I really like sci-fi books, as you could probably tell.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many things there's so many other ones that I like a lot too. Like Star. Oh gosh, what is the name of that? Star. It's there's. If you
There's a
give me
lot
a
of
second to
sci-fi starts with
research,
star.
yeah, I know. If you give me a minute, I will search this up. But do you have like a favorite science fiction novel?
uh, well, that's the thing. A lot of mine are, like I said way back at the beginning, you weren't here, but a lot of the stuff I have are novelizations of games or game universes.
Oh,
So
I know.
honestly,
I
one of
stole all
my
your.
favorites is actually MechWarrior: The Dark Ages.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I can't go wrong there, dude.
I mean, you can, but it's difficult to do.
Oh, I
So
remember
one I
borrowing
have
some of your.
in my shelf right now is Ghost War.
I'm actually not familiar with that book series, but I remember I stole your Gears of War Aspio Fields book. That
I think you
because
still have
I was
it.
like, I think so. It's probably I think I do. It's in my collection of books, which I have right now, all boxed up. But
And I've
yeah,
got like
I
a ton of
love
Halo
that.
books,
I've
like
never read
Contact
any of those.
Harvest, Mortal Dicta, a couple from the Forerunner saga. I have Cryptum, Primordium, and Silentium.
And how are those?
I say they're pretty good because it talks about the it actually goes into the Forerunner Flood War because it like I don't know how much of Halo's backstory you know, like what the Flood actually are.
I know next to nothing. I mean, I played the games, but I know next to nothing.
Okay, so essentially the Flood started out as literal like godlike creatures.
Hmm.
Like these were the creatures the Forerunners worshipped as gods because they literally could change how the universe worked at will. And then at some point, you know, these greater beings looked at humanity and said, okay, these guys are the ones we want to give the mantle of responsibility to. These are the ones we want to kind of look after the universe in our stead. And the Forerunners got kind of pissed off about that. Because, like, hey, we were the ones worshiping you. Humans don't even know you exist. And at this point, humanity has actually, like, already evolved once. Because in Halo, humanity has gone into the space age way, way early. Like, prehistorically, we were already in a space age.
Hmm.
And we don't really know much about it, but eventually the Forerunners start fighting against their gods. And like these gods are creatures that can literally like bend space and time to their will, essentially by snapping their finger. They can do whatever they want. Like they have literal roads between stars that they can travel on. And I mean physical roads. Not like warp space, not like hyperspace travel. Literal roads that the mass fluctuates wherever you are on it. And these are between star systems. So
Huh.
eventually they become kind of corrupted because they're fighting like this. And the Forerunners, eventually start deploying bioweapons. And the last one of these godlike creatures essentially becomes corrupted by hatred and creates the flood, which
Hmm.
they essentially like break themselves down into these creatures, and the flood are unleashed. And at this point, it turns out the Forerunners are fighting two wars. They're fighting against their own gods and the flood that they became, and then turning around, and it turns out they've also been fighting with humanity. Humans found out about them, and there was a war going on where the humans were going into Forerunner space and taking on planets. Like it looked like they were conquest, but it turns out that what the humans were actually doing was running because the flood had found humanity. So the humans
Okay.
were in getting into Forerunner space because we were running away from the flood because we couldn't kill them. We had absolutely no way to stop these things. So the only thing we could do was just keep running back and back and back, and we eventually started getting into Forerunner space. And the Forerunners were like, oh, hey, these guys are invading our space. Yeah, the Precursors is what the other creatures were called.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know any of that.
Yeah,
How
so,
interesting.
well, it's a little bit explained in Halo 4. If
Which,
you look at some of the logs and stuff that are added in the Master Chief Collection. That it turns out that essentially what happened was they fired the Halo rings and wiped out the Flood as much as they could. I mean, obviously they didn't work out very well because they still came back. But then they also decided, you know what, humans are way too powerful, and the precursors are going to give them the mantle of responsibility that we want because we earned it, we proved that we're better. So they knocked humanity back down to the Stone Age. Like, they literally took it and erased humans' memory of all the stuff that we did before. And then we were knocked back down to the Stone Age. So humanity's evolution completely did a reset.
Oh. Huh.
And yes,
Like-
there are. I don't think they ever get into it in the games, but there is a step above the Grave Mind, which is the creature that you see in Halo 2 and 3.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's Flood Proto Mind, which is that weird thing that Captain Keyes kind of gets stuck in the first Halo game.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Proto Mind eventually gets enough biomass to create a Grave Mind. And as that keeps expanding, it'll eventually become what's called a Key Mind. And a Key Mind is essentially as powerful as the precursors were.
Dude, that's wild.
But I don't think we've ever seen one in-game. Because I don't think they worked out that way.
Yeah, I don't think it ever got that big.
Yeah, well, partially because we fired the ring and killed the damn thing when we blew the ring up with it on it.
Yeah, I played Halo. I played the shit out of Halo 1 and 2, and then I played 3 when it came out. But past that, I haven't had a lot of interaction with the Halo games. But they
I kind
sound
of stopped
fantastic.
after Reach, because Reach was the last good one. Because then
Well,
Halo
and
5 came around and nobody liked that.
Well,
The only good thing Halo 5 did was make it so you could actually aim down sights again.
Well, didn't the Mass Effect games also have novelizations?
Yes, I do have one. And it's pretty rough shape because I got it like third or fourth hand. But it's Mass Effect Revelation. So it takes place at the end of the first game.
And does it branch the first and the second game?
I don't know. I don't think the problem is the way you play Mass Effect and the way you read the books are two different things, because Mass Effect has like 4 different endings.
Yeah.
Or at least 4 variations of endings.
Hmm.
And the book only has one conclusive ending, but that's the novelization.
Interesting. Well, by the way, I was able to figure out what the name of that book was while we were talking about that. It's called Blind Sight. So, and this is a high science fiction novel. This came out, it says, in 2006. So, long story short, what this book is about, or how I found out about it, was one of my favorite directors, Neil Blomkamp, who made District 9 and Elysium and some other cool movies. Most recently, it was a Gran Turismo movie. Was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about this book with a vampire in it. And I was like, what is this? So I ended up buying the book after that. And that whole part about a vampire I thought was just absolutely fascinating. So I was like, what is this? I gotta read this book. And then what the book actually turned out to be was the whole part about the vampires is very interesting, and that's actually the captain of this spaceship. But basically, this is set in the year 2082. All these comet-like objects show up in Earth's atmosphere and all burn through in coordination and make a giant grid over the Earth. And people are trying to figure out what it is. And basically, it's like something took a picture or like a snapshot of the entire Earth, like what was going on the planet and everything. And then after that, they end up. So it's like first contact. We know that aliens exist, and then we get a radio transmission that originated from a comet, and we send these guys out into space on this spaceship. And there's 5 people on there, but they're not all people. They're called transhuman, hyper specialists. So one is a genetically reincarnated vampire who acts as the commander, and then there's and they're all different. They've all got like different stuff about them. Like one person with like a bisected personality, and it's very wild. But they long story short, they come into contact with this thing out in space, and this thing has been listening to us talk through space transmissions, mainly through like these space truckers who have been going out there and and this thing has been absorbing messages from it, so it knows how to talk. But when we start interacting with it, they don't know if it knows what lying is and all this sort of stuff. It's very interesting. But like what the actual commentary of the book is about whether or not intelligence and consciousness, like us being conscious like we are right now, is a byproduct of evolution and not the endpoint, but um, more of a subpart of evolution. So
Okay, so
basically what it
it's a difference between sapience and sentience.
well basically it's like what if consciousness is only a byproduct of evolution because we were born out of a very dynamic and varied environment. But
We came
what
from a
if
death world, as most hi-fi calls it.
yeah, so what if instead now that we have completely dominated our nature. We have air conditioning, blah, blah, blah. Well, you keep extending that forward to where all food is taken care of. All the things that were difficult for us to survive are now taken care of. Is consciousness as we know it, is that really even needed to for a point where what if there was a species that evolved so far that consciousness really isn't even needed? Like for instance, does cancer love or hate, or does it just consume to exist? And then so this is kind of saying like this alien species that they have contact with, which is talking to them, which is a high form of intelligence. Like, is it even conscious in the sense like we are? Like, it's super intelligent to the point where it can take over planets and do all these different things, but it's not conscious like us. It doesn't have morality and all the rest of these things, which are fundamentally what makes us human. But at the end point, like, does that even matter? Like, and then so it's just saying that is our big brain consciousness what we understand as us even matter in the long term scheme of evolution, and or is it just a byproduct of where we are at evolutionarily? And then so it's some pretty big heady concepts, and it's all fit in this book, which also has fucking vampires in it, which is awesome. which or how this guy basically, the dude who wrote it is a biologist, if I don't, his name's Peter Watts, but he wanted to write basically a realistic version of what vampires are. So basically, he in this world, vampires exist, but they went extinct. Much like how there are way less lions and tigers to the gazelle population, there's always significantly fewer predators than there are of their prey. So
Okay.
vampires existed, and to literally hunt and kill um, Homo sapiens back in
So
the
it's
day when we
the
were
idea is that's what caused the uncanny valley.
well. So so basically, they were 10 times as intelligent as us. They would have like a 900 IQ. They can have five different personalities, and so basically, you know how we like group think, it's like, oh, let me see from your point of view, now we'll see it from my point of view, blah blah blah, to hash out a problem.
Yeah.
A vampire is so intelligent that it can see from five different points of view all at the same time to hash out a problem, all in real time, all inside of its head. Also, the only reason that they drink blood is because there's an enzyme in it which actually helps with their metabolism. They're also like 8 or 9 feet tall. They're extremely territorial and very slender. And also, like, when a deer sees a wolf and is literally can't move out of fear.
Yeah, it's
That's what
the third F.
that's what happens to people when they look at vampires. So they force them to on this space crew, he literally wears a mask the entire time, like a space helmet that's reflective. So they can never see like his facial expressions or anything because you'd literally be terrified the second that you saw him and wouldn't be able to do anything. Also, the whole reason why they're afraid of crucifixes and stuff like this. So basically, when they were what 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 was the other subspecies of human that used to exist back in the day?
Neanderthal?
Before Neanderthal. So when they were hunting Neanderthals back in the day, there was too many vampires, and then so they basically went into hibernation. And in that time, while they were out, human populations exploded, and then we had come up um, with math. And then so one of the things that happened is we started building things with right angles. And then so there is no actual like hard 90-degree angles in all of nature. That's how like if you're lost and like in the woods or whatever and you look up on a hill and you see something that's completely flat or something like that, more than likely even if it's in silhouette that is a building because there is no perfectly straight things in nature or perfect 90-degree angles. So non or Euclidean um,
Euclidean
math,
geometry.
yeah, geometry freaks them out. So basically, when they came out of hibernation again to start hunting and existing and stuff like that, when they saw Euclidean geometry, it would give them seizures. And then so when humans held up a crucifix, they would start freaking out and having seizures. And they're like, oh, it's because they're afraid of God. But whereas actually what happens is their brain can't process it. And then so they went extinct. And then so in this book in the future, they find their bones and then recreate them in a lab, but they don't fix that part, the crucifix glitch part, that they give them seizure medications so that they can exist in human society and stuff because they are so smart and so useful. That's why he is the captain on this ship. So basically, that's all included in this story as like a whole complete subpart and doesn't really have anything to do with anything other than there's vampires in this story. like it's just super cool. But yeah, it's a super interesting book. But Jesus, is it bleak and some of the
Would you
stuff that
count it
it
as
talks.
like Lovecraftian in a sense?
A little bit. I mean, where it's not like a creature that's like an old one, more as like it is a first contact story because there's a lot of movies and fiction that is about like human beings first contact with an alien species. And so this is a very very different take on the first contact story and like how it happens. And I found it incredibly interesting, but like I said, it is pretty fucking bleak in some of this stuff. But I really liked it. But again, it's like it's a bit different and very heady in some of the things. I very much enjoyed it, but there was times where I was like, I have to reread like what this guy is saying to like really understand what was going on. I mean, there was lots of times where like I had read that and I was like, what? Like in the very beginning when he's talking about like just like the first couple pages of the book and he's describing the ship. What was extremely helpful was this ship is actually on the cover of the book, and then so you're like, okay, I see what he's going
Now
for,
it makes
and,
sense.
and because like unless you can like really visualize it in your mind when he's talking about these shapes and these different things and what's going on, like yeah, it can be a bit much. So that book there was a bunch of times where I was like, hold on, let me reread that part again. But I really enjoyed it. I actually bought two copies of it and gave one to my mom. But yeah, it's pretty dark shit. But I liked it a lot. And I just found out actually in researching this that there actually is a sequel, but well, it's a sidequel. Apparently something going on in the same universe, but at a different point or something like that. So I might
Okay.
check that out after this is all over. But yeah, it's called Blind Sight. It's very, very interesting book.
All
Long
right.
story short. But yeah, more recently though, I've been into I've always been into like history books and stuff like that, but I had talked about a little bit ago on a previous podcast about reading about this super horrible guy during the Second World War, this Nazi named Oscar Derlewanger, who is he was so bad that the SS were like, Jesus Christ, dude, like calm down, like you're making us look bad. The SS said that, and that has been kind of a slog, not in the writing aspect of it, other than it is extremely detailed because it was written by a lady over who went through like the archives for the German ones and the ones that were held by the Soviets for a long time. And oh my God, so it's a slog in that like they they wrote everything that this sumbitch did and in graphic detail. So I had to take a little bit of a break up from it because it was making me a little bit depressed when they're talking about throwing babies on bonfires and all that kind of shit. It's just like, oh God, like you can
Yeah.
only do so much of that where you're just like, Jesus Christ. And it's all, this isn't fiction, this is real. So you're just like, ugh, like make me want to barf type shit. But yeah,
Well, the reason I brought
uh,
up Lovecraft with Blindsight is because there's a story that's called Dreams in the Witch House, or Dreams of the Witch
hmm,
House.
what
And
is
there
that?
is an entity in Lovecraftian lore called a dimensional shambler. And how you can tell one is around is because angles don't quite look right. Like they come from a dimension between dimensions. And how they get
Oh,
into our
interesting.
universe uh, is through angles and geometry.
Oh, interesting.
Like if you look at it like a corner where your walls meet your ceiling, that like three-dimensional spot,
Hmm.
and it looks a little bit off, that's because you're actually seeing what reality actually looks like. And that gets their attention. Like the second you notice that, even like unconsciously, you just kind of look at it like, huh, that's kind of weird, and then you keep going. You are now a beacon for them. They know that you have seen the truth, and they come after
Oh,
you.
really?
But they
How
come
interesting.
slowly. Like it is a very slow build-up before these things even start to appear. Like you'll notice like shadows that don't look quite right. You'll measure if you're building something and you measure once, and it's like, oh, this is like 3 centimeters, and then you measure it again, and then it's like, oh, now it's 3.2 centimeters, and then it's like it'll keep messing with the measurements and geometry. Like
Oh,
it's
really?
these little details, and that's them slowly breaking in through this geometry into our universe. And
That
then when
is
they
so.
actually appear, they come. You can't even really tell what they are because they'll have like a somewhat human form, but it also keeps like fading in and out of reality as you look at it,
Mm.
and you'll never see the full thing. And then it just takes you. Like it's never even really specified what they do or why. It's just they do it because that's just what they do, and it's never explained like what happens to people they take.
Hmm.
Some people are taken and gone forever. Some people show up again and they're not quite right. Some people survive the encounters against them and they're like broken entirely because of what they've seen beyond the veil.
Oh, interesting.
And one of the other
Yeah.
theories is that they're actually doing this to prevent a much greater force from breaking through.
Oh, how
So they're
weird.
essentially the antivirus, kind of like pulling out the broken bits of code that are seeing things it's not supposed to see. Because if enough people notice these things, those little gaps in geometry between our universe and another universe, that hole will just keep opening up wider and wider, and eventually something much worse will get through.
Oh,
So one of the
that.
theories is that they're essentially like janitors. They're kind of like, okay, you've seen something you're not supposed to. We can't let that hole patch. We got to patch that up. So we're just going to take you out of it.
I really enjoyed by H.P. Lovecraft. God, that sounds so fascinating. I want to read that. The Color Out of Space, which apparently there's a movie. I did not know that with Nicolas Cage, so I'm kind of curious. But I
Yeah,
really
it's called The Dreams in the Witch House.
Dreams in the Witch House. I
Yes,
will
and
have
it
to
it,
check
it
that.
actually explains that some witches were they kind of noticed like they were what they were doing wasn't magic. What they were doing was actual like non-Euclidean math, and that was how they were doing these spells and things like that because
Huh.
they were actively breaking reality around the angles that they were creating.
That that reminds me. I bought this book because I was looking for some horror novels because I also really love horror books. And there's this one called House of Leaves, and
Oh yeah,
this
everyone
is
talks about that one.
Dude, I bought that shit. It is so bizarre. I absolutely love it. So here, let me just read a little summary of what it is. House of Leaves is a postmodern horror novel known for its experimental format, including footnotes, unusual typography, and a story within a story structure. It follows a family who discovers their house is physically larger on the inside because the guy takes a tape measure. He's like, "This is weird," and he measures it like the inside wall and it's like 19 feet, and then he goes outside and it's like 18 and a half feet, and he's like, what the hell? And I mean that's how it starts, but it's like it follows a family of including a shifting labyrinthine darkness, while a young man named Johnny Trant narrates his discovery and analysis of the manuscript detailing this event. The book is famous for its immersive maze-like reading experience that blurs the lines between fiction, film analysis, and psychological horror, because he's talking about the it's like a character talking about another guy who was investigating a manuscript that was left from this family that was in the house. So it's pretty meta and weird, but you can look at pictures of the actual pages online and how they flip upside down, or words are written over each other, or all sorts of weird shit. Like one page where all the words are going across, and then there is a hollow spot in the middle of all the words that is like in the silhouette of a house, and then all the rest of it comes down like a trail leading from the house, and all the words are in there. So it's like the actual layout of the words on the page like makes a picture. Like there's all sorts of weird shit, but it is very different, very interesting. I had heard about that, and then it was actually bought for me by a girl as a birthday present. And I was like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe you bought me this. This is fucking awesome!" Because I had told her about it, and then she ended up getting that for me. But yeah, it came out March 7th of 2000, so it's been out for a little while now. But yeah, it's called House of Leaves. Super different, very very different. But I also read, um, oh my gosh, give me 2 seconds to remember the name of this author.
All
If
right.
you do
Quick
you have a
correction on
favorite?
what I said earlier.
Hmm.
The Dimensional Shambler doesn't actually show up in Dreams in the Witch House. It shows up in another book called The Horror in the Museum. But
Oh,
they share how they enter into the universe with dimensional travel and non-Euclidean geometry.
oh,
Because this is how
interesting.
these things get across is they move in through that non-Euclidean geometry.
Huh.
Yeah, the really creepy creature in Dreams in the Witch House is Brown Jenkin, who is a rat with a human face.
Oh, Jesus.
So yeah, the
Huh.
horror in the museum is where the Shamblers are actually described, and Dreams in the Witch House, it is thought that the main creature in it from Lovecraft is Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos.
Oh, interesting.
Essentially, the only Lovecraftian being that is actively, against humans. Like it just loves watching us suffer. It is the only one that actually has a connection to like, you know what? Fuck you humans. I'm gonna mess with you. And
No
it's the
shit.
only one. Most of the other creatures Lovecraft created are essentially indifferent to us.
Huh.
Like even Cthulhu, it's like imagine like there's a circle of ants in your on like the tile or something in your kitchen, and for some reason you can hear them calling your name. And it's like you kind of go over to investigate. That's the kind of thing Cthulhu thinks of to us humans. It's just like, what the hell are these little things, and why are they talking to me?
Dude, the craziest part about all of those Lovecraftian stuff is like when he was writing, like it's all in like the 20s and the 10s and the
Yeah,
30s,
and he was
which is
also
just
inspired by another early writer who wrote what the hell is the name of it? But it's essentially the Yellow King. It's the King in Yellow with in the city of Carcosa.
I know about that because there is a Wendigoon video about it, but I have
Yeah,
never
Windigan
actually
talks
really.
about it does like a 4 hour video on the essentially what is the play and the book called The King in Yellow that drives people crazy.
Yeah, I saw that and wanted to check it
Robert
out, but
W.
I am not
Chambers is the guy who wrote that, and
I'm
that
not
was he
familiar with
wrote
it.
the book The King in Yellow, and that was written in 1895.
Holy shit.
Yeah, The King in Yellow as a place associated with a forbidden play, a cosmic horror, and the entity known as Hastur, the King in Yellow, located near the Lake of Hali.
Huh. I am
And
not
it's
familiar
about
with
it's
that at
essentially about
all.
a guy who kind of winds up there on accident in what's called the Dreamlands.
Huh.
And he finds out that the Dreamlands are there. It's kind of where human consciousness eventually kind of leads to. It's like this is where human dreams come from, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But it also turns out that there is creatures above that. Like there's the creature called Yog-Sothoth, who is the gate and the key, because it is literally the final like of everything. It is the creature that guards all of creation and has all knowledge possible.
That is creepy. The cosmic horror shit like really gets under my skin. Like that stuff, like the unknown, or like these bigger things that are like so much bigger or like undescribable, as they put it. Like the way that they use such like purple language to describe things is just like I don't know. It really gets under me because it's so disturbing. Like the unknown more than describing things that are like particularly graphic or whatever. Like how you were describing just like seeing angles and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden this thing is after you because it's from this other undescribable dimension. Stuff like it's that stuff always gets to me.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just love it because it's the idea of not being afraid of anything specific. It's the fear of the unknown.
Hmm.
Like it's not being afraid of the monsters. It's not being afraid of tentacles or anything like that. It's a fear of this thing that the human mind cannot even register. Like just looking at these things breaks the human mind because the human mind has no idea what to do with the information it's receiving. And I find that probably the scariest thing of all. Is like if you look at this thing and you just can't even comprehend it and you go mad just because you're looking at it because your brain cannot comprehend everything that it's trying to find.
Oh man.
And here we are. This is from the Lovecraft Wiki. Yog-Sothoth is the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the key and the guardian of the gate. Past, present, future, all are one in Yog-Sothoth. He knows where the old ones broke through of old, and where they shall break through again. He knows that they have trod earth's fields, and where they still tread them, and why no one can behold them as they tread. And that is from the Dunwich Horror.
Hmm. Which I've definitely heard of that, but I
Oh yeah,
haven't.
he is born of the nameless mist and the progenitor of Cthulhu, Hastur, and the ancestor of Vormi. And also the father of Wilbert Wheatley. But it essentially exists in a dimension outside of time and space, and it cannot enter our universe either because it doesn't really want to or have any reason to, or it just like it it either can't come in unless summoned, or it can, but it just has absolutely no reason to do so.
Hmm.
But the most powerful one is essentially the ultimate chaos. This creature known as the blind idiot god, Azathoth.
The blind idiot
Well,
god.
it's called that because the whole reason it's like blind and stupid is because it was essentially lobotomized by the creatures that captured it.
Hmm.
Because it was so powerful that this thing is kept asleep with a chaotic music festival essentially around it at all times. Because if it even starts to wake up, all of reality will stop. All of reality is literally this thing just dreaming. So if it wakes up, all of reality just ceases to exist. Because it woke up and its dream ended.
It's wild.
I think it's
You ever wonder
also
how they came up
essentially
with that?
the flying spaghetti monster. Because of what this thing looks like.
Oh my god, the
And
flying spaghetti
it's
monster.
essentially at the center of the universe. And that's where
Man.
it's kept. At the center of the universe. And it is so vast that its tentacles ensnare the entire universe and beyond. But it is kept asleep by chaos going on around it, specifically tuned to keep it asleep. Because, like I said, if it wakes up, all reality stops. Because everything that is reality is just its dream.
That is wild. You know, this is making me think of some of the there was a time where I was looking into like some of the more like because everybody's heard of Stephen King, right? And
Yeah.
then and he writes some pretty out there stuff, but I was like I wanted to get into stuff that was a little more gnarly than that. And then so I had found out about this writer named Jack Ketchum, who he's dead now, but he wrote some pretty gnarly shit. Most famously is probably like this book that he wrote called The Girl Next Door, which they made into a movie, not to be confused with the rom-com that came out in the early 2000s. It
And
is,
definitely not to be confused with the parodies and certain adult entertainment.
yeah. So The Girl Next Door is, oh my God. It is that one is awful. But anyway, I'm not gonna get into that one because it's
I think
basically
that
like
genre is known as gore punk or something like that.
it's God, I'm gonna look. I
There's
forget
an
what they
actual
called
term
it.
for it. It's something punk.
Well, if from what I remember, it's like it's not thriller horror. God
Because
damn
one
it,
of
I
the
forget.
well, the reason I came across that was what you brought up the House of Leaves.
Hmm.
Someone else brought up in a video, and they were talking about a book called The Har, which is
Hmm.
it's a book, it's a Scottish book,
Hmm.
but it is insanely violent and graphic.
Yeah. Well,
And like
that's
they have a
basically.
lot of books that are like that. Another one's called like The River Man.
Hmm.
I'm trying to remember what he called it.
Well, the one that because I had seen the movie and was familiar with another movie that was based off one of his books called Red, um, which has Brian Cox and Tom Sizemore in it. They're good movies, by the way. Both the Girl Next Door, the non rom-com horror one. It's literally filmed like a made for TV movie, but it's so much more like it's about a little kid who becomes friends with this girl who's staying with her aunt, and the aunt gets all the neighborhood kids into
Splatterpunk.
hurting. It's yeah, it's not.
That's
It's
the word I was trying to think of.
I forget the term. There is a term for that. It's not as like it's not so much like I because I'm familiar with that genre. His stuff isn't as much like that, but it's very very gnarly stuff. It has some pretty extreme violence in it, but he but yeah, he basically, this older woman gets all these younger kids to torture this young girl in a basement. Is basically what that movie in the book The Girl Next
Okay.
Door is
Wasn't
about.
that based on like an
But
actual thing?
yes, there it's loosely based off of a story of a real girl that had something like that happen to her, and they're like putting out cigarettes on her and stuff. It's fucking awful. And anyway, well, I wanted to read because I heard that his first book called Off Season was really good, and I actually bought a hardcover version of it that I don't know if it's signed or not, but it's like a limited edition copy of it, and holy shit. That book is gnarly. The funny thing about it is I read it all in like 2 days, and then I remember telling a friend of mine who had come up to my house um, about it. And then I was like, yeah, it's like the first 70 pages is a bit of setup with like the different characters and stuff. And then the rest of the book all takes place in one night into the morning, and it just doesn't stop. And then so I was like, dude, you got to hear this part. And then so I had opened up the book and started reading out this part out loud. I was like, wasn't that crazy? And it was like a page or two. And he's like, no, dude, keep going. And I literally read the rest of that book out loud to my one friend overnight. Like we ended up reading the entire book out loud because he was just like, "No, dude, keep going." And I was like, "I don't mind at all. I actually because I just read it and I loved it and was kind of fascinated with it at the time. And I read the rest of the 200 something pages of that book out loud. Like it. So what Off Season is about inbred cannibals. It's like a classic horror setup where
So is
it's
this
six.
The Hills Have Eyes kind of cannibals or Wrong Turn kind of cannibals?
It's like The Hills Have Eyes kind of cannibals because it was inspired by the legend of Sonny Bean, if you're familiar with that at all, which was a real life thing. Um, which I can read. So here, let me just pull that up real quick. So, Sawney Bean, sometimes also known as Sandy Bane, is a legendary figure said to have been the head of a 45-member clan in Scotland in the 16th century that murdered and cannibalized over 1,000 people in 25 years. According to the legend, Bean and his clan members were eventually caught by a search party of King James VI and were executed for their heinous crimes. The story appeared in the Newgate Calendar as sensationalized crime catalog loosely connected to the Newgate prison in London. It has since passed into folklore and became part of Edinburgh tourism circuit. So that's like the legend that kind of inspired this, but like what this is about. Uh, when the novel was released, many well-known publications attacked its depictions of extreme violence. Critical reaction to it was so strong that Ballantine, the publisher, stepped back from supporting the novel. Despite initially strong sales, the publisher decided to withdraw it from circulations after its first printings were sold out. In 1999, the novel was picked up for republication by Cemetery Dance Publication and was released in an unexpurgated edition that features some of the gore that Ballantine initially made Ketchum trim, as well as the original bleaker ending, which is the version that I have. It's fucking gnarly. Um, so, a group of 6 friends from New York City rent a house in Dead River, Maine for a week-long vacation. The day they arrive, a
Of course,
woman
it's fucking
is
Maine.
fished. Yeah, dude. A
Nothing
woman is
good ever
fished out of
happens
the
in
ocean.
Maine.
Is fished out of the ocean, claiming she was ambushed by a group of feral children. Hidden for years from civilization, a clan of cannibalistic inbred savages stalk the area for whatever meat they can find. So, dude, like, there is a scene in this book where this girl and guy, of course, like anything, like any horror movie from that time period, are having sex in front of a window, and these things break through the window and grab her and rip her outside. And the guy is like, because she's on top, is like, what the fuck? Like, what happened?
That kind
And
of
then
sounds like
these,
that scene from Until Dawn,
dude, it's
with when
very
the
similar.
Wendigos
Like,
grab that girl through the window.
It's like that, only they drag her out to the front, and then the rest of the people in the cabin come downstairs and are like, "What's going on?" And he's like covered in blood and freaking out. And they drag her body to the front yard where they have a spit. They cut off her fucking head and her arms and her legs, and then they put a pike through her and start roasting her there in front of everybody. And then they take her head and smash it on a rock to scoop her freaking brains out. And I was like, oh my god. And then like there's like 17 little kids and then a bunch of the larger ones and stuff, and there was a bunch of other super creepy shit that was going on, but I remember that scene in particular was like very disturbing in its depiction of all this
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
definitely
but
splatterpunk.
yeah, like one of them has a gun in the trunk and he of the car, but that's out in the front of the, and these things are inbred cannibals who don't understand any of that kind of stuff. And he makes his way out to the trunk, and I just remember this because he feels a stabbing pain, and there's a little kid stabbing him in the leg and biting him, and he turns and blows its head off with his 44 Magnum. And like they're literally talking about murdering these children, and you're just like, oh my god. But yeah, it's pretty freaking gnarly. Like
Yeah, no kidding.
I really, by the way, I still have this if you want to borrow it. It's only,
Not
I'm not sure
particularly.
how much, but it is really good. I really liked it. And it kind of got me started in some of these more like extreme horror novels, which, got me to like House of Leaves and some of this other stuff. But yeah, I was looking into some other stuff that was like that is like more extreme than, because I really liked a lot of the Stephen King stuff, but I was looking for something a little bit like harder edged, because you could find that a lot easier with movies,
Yeah.
which of course I could talk about, but I don't want to detract and get into like talking about movies. But I was like, what are the books out there that are a little bit like this? And Stephen King wrote, and you can find this on the front of every Jack Ketchum book. Who's the scariest guy in America? Probably Jack Ketchum. By Stephen King wrote that. So it was like, oh, okay, like this is going to be some pretty good shit. Well, they ended up making a movie that is kind of an offshoot from that, because there's a second novel called Offspring, which I have not read. But then there's a movie that they made a book, and then they made a movie called The Woman. And it is about a guy, it finds one of the children that has then grown up into the woman, who's feral, living out in the woods, and then he catches her and then decides that he's going to domesticate her. And you can imagine where it goes from there, because it is he keeps her in his barn, and then he's like teaching his family no, but the guy is like a total sick freak and blah blah blah. And then let me just put it this way: eventually she gets loose and it starts killing people with a lawnmower blade. It is gnarly. But yeah, the name of that movie is called The Woman, and there's also a novelization of it that was co-written by the director. And that is a good offshoot. So technically there's three of them in there. I read the first one multiple times and loved it, but it is fucking graphic. It
Yeah, it's
way less.
definitely one of those, what do they call it? I don't want to say like AO kind of things, like adults only.
Mhm. So it is gnarly. I mean, it is definitely not for everybody, and nobody, or I should say, most people would be turned off by that sort of stuff. Um, so like this guy wrote, talking about Jack Ketchum. Whilst Jack work is unquestionably gory, and it is minimalist and always packs a philosophical message underneath the reams of innards and blood. Think of it, if you like, as fiction's equivalent to Martyrs, if you know what that movie is.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, while
Because
there are
Elvis the
several,
Alien did a video on that one.
yeah, which I really actually like that movie, except for like the last 45 minutes of it, which is just torture and stuff like that. While there are similarities and parallels between The Woman and The Girl Next Door, this is distinct enough to stand its ground as another essential Ketchum novel. It is interesting exploration of the human psyche, our own endurance levels, and confronts the question of what it is to be human. So I really enjoy the way that he writes, but again, it's not for everybody. But I tend to always look for the extremes of whatever genre that I'm in, whether it be like really hard sci-fi or really gnarly horror, or like if it's historical stuff, like some pretty gnarly shit like the stuff that I'm reading about this SS guy. But not always. I mean, one of the books that I really, really enjoyed is called, which I found out about by Jordan Peterson, because he did an entire series about this book called The Gulag Archipelago.
Hmm.
Um, it's by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And the only reason I know that is because I heard him say it like 50 times. Um, so here, let me just the history behind this book is just as good as the writing, except for the writing's even better. So, um, it is a three-volume nonfiction series written between 1958 and 1968 by Russian writer Alexander Solzhenitsyn, a Soviet dissident. It was first published in 1973 by originally when this guy wrote this stuff because he went into a gulag and then wrote about his experiences in there and about the Russian system and like how all this stuff works. And it was just originally just groups of papers, and then it was passed around by people because you would be put in the gulag for reading it, and then he escaped the Soviet Union and then had it published. Um, it was translated into English and French the following year. It explores a vision of life as often known in what is often known as the Gulag, the Soviet labor camp system. Solzhenitsyn constructed a highly detailed narrative from various sources, including reports, interviews, statements, diaries, legal documents, and his own experience as a Gulag prisoner. Following its publication, the book was initially circulated in the Soviet Union by Samizdat, an underground publication. It was not widely published until 1989. It appeared that year. Um, since the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the Gulag Archipelago has been officially published in Russia. Um, Oh my God. So it is so beautifully written and just absolutely tragic. Like he talks about like for instance that all the guards in the Gulag system have a blue band around their hats, and he goes off about this little thing about why that is. And it's because they own the sky. Everything that you will see in a gulag in a labor camp is just mud and death. And like it's just people dying of disease, starving to death, people fighting over grains of rice and killing rats and stuff like that. It's horrible, like Holocaust like imagery. So the only beautiful thing that you see at all ever is the sky. Because everything else that you look down and across at is all bleak and awful, awful shit. And then so the only beautiful thing that you ever see is the sky, is the clear blue sky when it's not like raining and awful and the rest of that shit. So they literally put blue bands around their hats to show you that they own the sky too. It's
Damn.
yeah. Or and he talks about how they apprehend people in the middle of the night and how they would go about that, and that it was all derived from what's his face this a Russian leader from a long time ago, and how he did it by he literally used knights that were dressed in all black armor, who wore all black horses, who would show up in the middle of the night to get you while you were sleeping and make a big deal out of it to scare the shit out of the neighbors. And it was in the Soviets derived that same were like looked at that as like, oh, this is a great method, like we need to do the same thing with our guys, because if you did it in the middle of the day, and he tells this story about this lady, they tried to grab her off the street, and then she ended up grabbing a light pole and they couldn't get her to break free. They couldn't break her grip, and then all of a sudden a bunch of people, because this lady is screaming and they're trying to drag her and throw her into a car, all these people started showing up. And then before you know it, the KGB is like, all right, fuck it. Like, we're going to leave now. Like, and let her go. And then because they'll just scoop her up later or whatever, right? Well, they always wanted to avoid that. And draw and get as much fear out of people as possible. So then they would do it in the middle of the night when they know that you're home sleeping and stuff, because it has a psychological effect on everybody that's around. And he talked about like when you like how they force you to confess to things that they know that you didn't do. They'll put you in a narrow room where there's a stool and a single light on. The light never goes out, and you're not allowed to sit on the stool, because if you sit down the second you do, they beat the shit out of you for it. And but the room, there's not enough room to sit down on the ground or anything else, so you're literally forced to stand there, and then they leave you in there on purpose because it's
So it's
all
the
part of
Inquisition
breaking
all
you.
over again.
Dude, it's unbelievable like what they did to their own people, and he's talking about all this stuff, and it is like it is so beautifully written, but what it's talking about is just so like awful. Like it's so awful at the same time, but it is fascinating. But then you're like, I cannot believe that this is what they did to people. I mean, they just it's super bleak and awful, but at the same time, it is so beautiful. And I absolutely love that book. I also have a copy of it if you would like it, to read it. It's a pretty it it's not super long, but it is. I mean, it's some pretty heavy shit, but I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, some of the chapters in that stick in my mind out like a absolute sore thumb. It's Yeah, like talking about forcing these guys to dig a ditch in Siberia that never got more than 10 feet deep because they had to use manual tools because, of course, they didn't have heavy equipment to do it. And it was to build this to get water to transfer this place, but they never had any intention of it to actually work. They just did it so that they didn't have to feed these guys because they knew that the labor would kill them and that the ground was so hard that they would never actually be able to get deep enough to do it. It was just a way of killing people. It Yeah, the book describes and discusses waves of purges and assembling show trials by Stalin through the 30s in a context of the development of the greater Gulag system. Solzhenitsyn closely examines the uh, pur- purposive legal and bureaucratic development. The narrative ends in 1956 at the time of Nikita Khrushchev's secret speech, which I got really interested in Russian history, especially through like the Bolshevik Revolution and forward, and a little bit before learning about the czars and stuff like that. But like I am absolutely fascinated by like Lenin and Trotsky and Stalin and Khrushchev and a lot of the it's so gnarly like what they did to people, and to
Yeah,
their
just
and
the
how they
psychology
took
of how the
over
hell anyone could do that.
is, oh dude, it is fascinating and horrific, and just like you cannot believe that it's real. But yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
And this
I
is why
like
I
I said,
listened
it's one
to
of
general comedy during my days.
my
I listen to
but
hi-fi when I'm at work.
But yeah, this is I mean, I think it's kind of essential reading for anybody, for any reason, whether you be in high school, adult, doesn't really matter, whether or not you have an interest in Russian history or any of that kind of stuff. It kind of goes past all of that. It's not like a period piece. It's not like you'd have to be interested in Stalin or World War II or anything like that. It's just about people and about systems and stuff like that. And it goes so far past all that stuff into like human psychology, why people do the things they do to each other and stuff. And you're and it yeah. It's called the Gulag Archipelago, an experiment in literary investigation. It is unbelievable. And like I said, some of the most beautiful prose I have ever read, especially about something that is so dark and awful, but it is unbelievably important, probably one of the most important things I've ever read in my entire life. And unlike things that were like, you should read this just to understand it in the context of its time, like, like Mein Kampf or some shit like that. This is actually actually super important and easy to read and really informs you on so many things. But yeah, I could not recommend it enough.
If
It's
you can
good
get through
stuff.
it.
Yeah, it's not as like bleak in the
It's not
sense
light
like
reading. We'll put it there.
yeah, it's not like horribly depressing or anything. Like, of course, the stuff it's talking about is real. It's more like you cannot believe that this shit really happened, but it's not like extremely gory in its depictions of this stuff. But like I said, the prose in it, like how it's actually written, is just it's beautiful. Like it's actually beautiful writing. It is so good. And like I said, it goes so far past like the things that you wouldn't think that this novel would be what it is. But yeah, it is, like I said, I couldn't recommend it enough. I heard about it um from Jordan Peterson, who had talked about it, and because he talked about it a lot in his lectures because he's a clinical psychologist, and he also recommended some other books that I ended up buying and reading, like one called Ordinary Men, um, which is about the Reserve Battalion 101. And where was this in Poland? I think this was in yes, it was in Poland. It's been a minute since I read that. This is a book about how they turned Polish police officers, how they were literally like the dude that you knew who, would break up the fights, get people for being drunk and disorderly in public and stuff like that, and how the Nazis turned them into like the guys who ran the death camps and would like grab people out of their like grab pregnant women out of their houses and shoot them in the head in the streets, and about how it's about the psychology of conformity and stuff like that. And it is absolutely fascinating, but that is some pretty gnarly shit. So Ordinary Men is the true story of Reserve Police Battalion 101 of the German Order Police, which was responsible for mass shootings as well as roundups of Jewish people for deportation to the Nazi death camps in Poland in 1942. Browning argues that most of the men of that were not fanatical Nazis, rather, but ordinary middle-aged working-class men who committed these atrocities out of a mixture of motives, including group dynamics of conformity, deference to authority, role adaptation, and altering the moral norms to justify their actions. Very quickly, three groups emerged within the battalion: a core of eager killers, a plurality who carried out their duties reliably but without initiative, and a small minority who evaded participation in the acts of killing without diminishing the murderous efficiency of the battalion whatsoever. So it's a book more about psychology, of course, because it's recommended by Jordan Peterson. But yeah, that's about like how you turn ordinary people into murderers, like how the Nazis did. And then of course, not because I bought all these books at the same time, it reminds me there's another book called On Killing by Dave Grossman. Let me pull this up real quick.
Why does that
So
name not surprise me?
so on killing, the psychological cost of learning to kill in war and society. So this book is literally, this guy is a colonel in our military who talks about how we train soldiers to kill people. So in World War II, only 15 to 20% of combat infantry were willing to fire their rifles. In Korea, about 50%. In Vietnam, the figure rose to more than 90%, meaning actually using your gun to shoot at somebody to kill them, meaning that only 15 to 20% of combat infantry, when they would shoot, were actually trying to kill other people because there's a psychological part of the vast majority of people who have a absolute aversion to killing. It's not something that's inherent in so many people. So the good news is most soldiers are loath to kill, but armies have developed sophisticated are ways of overcoming that instinctive aversion. The psychological cost of soldiers, as evidenced by the increase in post-traumatic stress, is devastating. This landmark study brilliantly illuminates the techniques of military uses to help soldiers kill and raises vital questions about the implications of escalating violence in our society. Basically, long story short, he talks about how as we've developed technologically, it has made it significantly easier to kill people because the further you are away from the person you're killing, the easier it is for your brain to deal with it. So, like when it's like fix bayonets, we're gonna go stab people, there's very little evidence of that happening in wars because getting up close enough to somebody to actually kill them with a knife like that is very, very brutal and intimate. And this guy actually talks about in this book about how it's intimate, like it would be intimate sexually because of penetration and stuff like that. Being able to look somebody in the eyes, it's some gnarly shit. When you're reading it, you're like, what? Yeah, and but as you get further away, like where we have projectile rifles and stuff like that, it becomes easier and easier to the point where you're using jets and drones and so on and so forth to further remove yourself from actually seeing what you're doing. But yeah, it's that one was pretty
Probably
gnarly.
why
Uh,
snipers go through so much mental training because they
yeah.
are like even like 1,000 meters out, they're still seeing someone that close.
hmm So this guy, the author, a former Army Ranger and paratrooper, Lieutenant Dave Grossman taught psychology at West Point and was a professor of military science at Arkansas State University. Just so we know who we're talking about here. But yeah, he it's that book is pretty because he breaks it down into chapters about like different sections and stuff. But yeah, when he gets to like when he's talking about like getting exceptionally close to people and how and murdering and that kind of stuff, uh, it's a bit to deal with. But again, like I said, I never take on any real light reading. I
Yeah.
only read shit that is like pretty
Honestly,
gnarly.
probably Friday will be full of a lot more light reading. Because Friday, hopefully, we'll have Comics Queen and Comics Dad on uh, Ebola and Nishi.
Who don't read such awful shit like I tend to do. I can't help it. All the stuff that I find interesting enough to where it like really compels me to read it is always an extreme in one way or another. So I don't know. It's kind of just my personality type.
And then I'm on the other end where it's just like, this seems interesting. I'll take a look at it. Like, I'm not. Like, for me, when the stuff I read is more essentially like supernatural or sci fi stuff that isn't quite as heavy, or doesn't deal with nearly as heavy themes.
Yeah. I don't know why that is about me, but I think it's because like for me, it's way easier to take in things that are way more extreme by the written word because I have control over my own imagination. Though, like when you're reading, it's just kind of creating the images in your head, but I can
Yeah.
stop that second versus like when it comes to like movies and some of these other things, it's like those were created by an artist, and then once you see them, you kind of can't
Yes, an
unsee them,
artist
sort of
with
thing.
quotes around it most of the time.
Just remember, whenever you're analyzing film, you just got to treat everything as if the choice was intentional, even if it wasn't. But but yeah, so like I wouldn't want to see a movie on killing where it's just a documentary where they're showing footage of people murdering each other and all the rest of this stuff. But like a guy who's talking about the psychology of war and like really breaking down like how you train people to actually kill each other. I'm like, that sounds fascinating. Like I'd be down into that. And then yeah, and then you get into it and you're like, holy shit. So
M.
I
Camp
tend
is saying you're a liar. You love movies on killing.
well, yes, but fictional movies where if it's like a real thing like this, it's like I can take that in way easier through a book. With books, I tend to have a much easier time in taking in those sort of things. Like, um, I mean, even when they are true stories, like there was that called The Reaper? I read another book about yes, it is The Reaper, the autobiography of one of the deadliest special ops snipers, Nicholas Irving. Um, he's a black guy who he's some of the stuff that he said it kind of makes me question after the fact, but when I read the book I was not as aware because he ended up like there's a famous clip of him online where he's saying like with a 50 cal if you shoot next to somebody that just the bullet going through the air can like rip people's skin off, and it's just like not true. And some other things, but he writes about his time over in okay. Uh, he's a special operations direct action sniper, the 3rd Ranger Battalion's deadliest sniper with 33 confirmed kills, though his remarkable career total, including probables, is unknown. He was in Afghanistan and was killing terrorists, assholes. And there, he tells a story that I remember pretty good when I read it, where these guys were coming down the street, and he said that it felt like it was out of a like an action movie because you're like you couldn't believe that it was real, where these guys were coming down the street in a big bus. I don't remember if it was like a school bus or like a transportation bus, but anyway, it was this big bus, and then they lock it up in the middle of the street and then get out and start shooting on their position. And then he talks about shooting these guys and seeing the pink mist coming out of them as he's blowing them away. And that was some pretty gnarly shit, but pretty interesting stuff. And he talked about a lot of the different. It's kind of along the lines of like the Chris Kyle American Sniper type stuff. Um,
Okay.
which I really enjoyed because they're real stories of actual snipers. But my favorite one was actually one about this sniper named Carlos Hathcock. Hathcock. He was an American sniper who basically came up with all the modern methods that we use, um, that our military still uses to this day for sniping. And he had 93 confirmed kills throughout Vietnam. Um, So he was a United States Marine Corps sniper with a service record of 93 confirmed kills. His record and the extraordinary details of his missions he undertook made him a legend in the Marine Corps. He was honored by having a rifle named after him, a variant of the M21 dubbed the Springfield Armory M25 White Feather because that was the nickname that the Viet Cong gave him, which was White Feather, given to Hathcock by the North Vietnamese People's Army of Vietnam, the PAVN. This guy, like, there's a story that he tells where he took 3 days, and I forget the name of the book that's about him, but his name's Carlos Hathcock, and you can read about him. He spent 3 days crawling extremely slowly, eating grass and stuff like that in full ghillie suit to so close to enemy patrols that one of them actually peed on him. To get close enough. It was like it took him like 3 days to get 300 yards to get close enough to where he could make a shot and kill um, some commanding officer that was a big deal to them. And it took him 3 days to get close enough to make that shot. He shoots the guy and kills him, and then the whole place explodes and like goes they go fucking ballistic and are like trying to figure out what's going on, and he stands up and walks out, and it takes him like 5 minutes or whatever, or like a couple minutes to cover the ground that took him 3 days to climb or to shimmy across extremely slowly because nobody sees this bush move for 3 days.
Shows how
The-
observant people are.
dude
Hey,
they
wasn't that bush
hired
over there yesterday?
they hired a guy, another sniper, um to try to murder him in the war. And then so and this is where the famous, they even tested this on Mythbusters. I'm not sure if you remember this episode where he shot through a scope into a guy's eye.
Oh yeah, I
There's a,
remember that episode. And they were saying it's impossible.
well, he did that for real. And then, so here, let me. One of Hathcock's most famous accomplishments was shooting an enemy sniper through the enemy's rifle scope, hitting him in the eye and killing him. Hathcock and John Roland Burke, his spotter, were stalking an enemy sniper in the jungle near Hill 55, the fire base for which Hathcock was operating southwest of Da Nang. The sniper, known only as Cobra, um, had already killed several Marines and was believed to have been sent specifically to kill Hathcock. When Hathcock saw a glint light reflecting off the enemy sniper scope in the bushes, he fired at it, shooting through the scope and killing the sniper. Hathcock took possession of the dead sniper's rifle, hoping to bring it home as a trophy, but after he turned it in and tagged it, it was stolen from the armory. But yeah, that's where that scene in Saving Private Ryan came from, was from this guy's true life story.
Okay.
Where Barry Pepper in the movie shoots that German sniper who has bright blue eyes, who shot Vin Diesel in that movie. He shoots him
Wait,
straight
Vin
through the
Diesel's in
scope, and
that
hits.
movie?
He's the one who
Damn.
gets shot by that German sniper, and he's laying out in the street bleeding to death. And they're like, "Don't
Yeah, it's
move,
like every time
don't
it's
move."
like I hear another person's in the movie, it's like, where?
Yeah, dude, there's a
Like that was a
shitload of famous
stacked
people.
movie, and they're not even in the main cast.
Nah, well, he actually he has another scene like right after they blow up the bunkers and stuff in the first, because they don't talk for like the first 20 something minutes of that movie, other than people just yelling and stuff. There's like no dialogue between characters. He's going through their trenches, and then he's like, "Look, I found a Hitler Youth knife." That is Vin Diesel's character in that movie. He's got a
Okay.
couple different lines, but yeah, he's pretty early. But yeah, there's so many fucking famous people in that movie. It's nuts. But but yeah, I read a book about Carlos Hathcock, actually given to me by, in sixth grade. There was a kid that we went to school with, Dominic. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember him.
His dad was in the military and read books about that, and then so he had actually,
Okay.
this was before he was an asshole bully to me. He had let me borrow a book about that, and even my dad read it about Carlos Hathcock, and he also won all these different shooting competitions and stuff. But yeah, um, and just one more thing I gotta say, because I read a bunch of books about snipers too. In 1967, Hathcock set the record for the longest sniper kill. He used an M2 50 cal Browning machine gun mounted with a telescopic sight at the range of 2,500 yards, killing a Viet Cong guerrilla. So he had up until 2002.
Oh, that
So from
Canadian
60.
sniper took the title.
Uh-huh, but he was the original holder from 1967 till 2002, and
Wow.
he did it with a machine gun with a telescopic sight on it. Fucking
Not even with
badass.
a sniper.
Nope, dude, he unbelievable when you read about that guy. But then I also read a book about a different sniper, a White Death, about Simo Haya.
Yeah,
Um,
the Finnish sniper in
mm-hmm.
World War II, as well as the Russian wars in Finland.
I'm trying to remember what the name of the book is that I read about
I think
him.
he has
I
over 500 confirmed kills in just those conflicts.
Yeah, it's like 300. He's the most prolific one
And he
because
did it
I
all
got
without a scope, too.
yeah. Um, 'Cause, yeah, he didn't want to be seen. Um
If I recall, the Russians called in like an artillery strike on his position just to kill him, and it still failed.
there was a whole bunch of that, a whole bunch of like really interesting stuff about him. But I mean, okay, let me put it this way: that guy not only was a hunter who was a very prolific at shooting in the first place. But like you said, he used iron sights. He also would put snow in his mouth to mask his breath, so that to keep his mouth cold, so that you would see him exhale. He wore all white, and was a amazing skier. He also kept a submachine gun with him, but also um, he would, when he was fighting the Russians during the Winter War when they had invaded Finland, because um, there's only one country in between Finland and North Korea, and it's called Russia. You can travel from the Finnish border all the way to the North Korean border through Russia. That's how big Russia is. When the Russians invaded, not only were they not prepared with proper winter gear, but their
Not by a
uniforms
long shot. They
were,
got beaten by farmers.
yeah, they were wearing brown uniforms. Brown.
In the snow.
Fucking yes.
Like a
So
bunch of
they were,
morons.
yeah, so they were super, and I mean again, that's not the Russian soldiers' fault. That's their, Yeah. So they threw them into a fucking meat grinder. And this guy, I mean, he would shoot their commander. Like one of the things that he would do really was he would shoot their commander, and then the rest of them would not know what to do. So they would usually stay in one spot. And then after you shoot him, you take one shot, he moves. And then he would just keep them there if he didn't have a shot and just wait for one of them to move. And then as soon as one of them moved, he'd shoot and kill him. And then they would never all make a break at one time. And even if they did, he was good enough that he would murder him anyway. But yeah, he was a bad motherfucker. But yeah,
Isn't
I
there
read a
also
bunch
like
of
a
different books.
statue of him in in his hometown?
Hmm. Yeah, and it wasn't until there's pictures of him before and after his injury, um, because he ended up getting shot in the face and it blew out part of his jaw and stuff. So he looked a bit different afterwards, but they did some surgeries on him. But the war actually ended while he was in recovery. But yeah, yeah, it was a very, very, very interesting guy. I did some research a while ago about who, like military snipers, like who is the most prolific killer of all time. Like, and then there's like some abstract answers, like like Genghis Khan and blah blah, blah, where you can't
Of
really like
course.
put a number to it. But
I mean, Genghis
um,
Khan took out enough people to literally lower the amount of O2 in the atmosphere.
yes, but do you know who they think was like who there's records of person like person to person like the a person who killed the single most amount of people in the world. I actually did a bunch of research on this and thought that it was pretty fascinating. um Let me pull up his name.
I mean, my guess would be
uh
some German machine gunner in World War One.
no. Well, I'm not like not like that as much as like I mean okay. So the person, let me make sure that this is the guy. So he Oh, yep, I'm pretty sure this is the guy. He's a Russian. His name is, if I'm not mistaken, Vasily Blokhin. So this guy was a Soviet secret police official who served as chief executioner for the NKVD under the administrations of Grigory Yodga and Lavrenti Beria, so he was selected for the position by Joseph Stalin in 1926 and led a company of executioners that performed and supervised numerous mass killings in the Soviet Union during Stalin's reign, mostly during the Great Purge in the Eastern Front of World War II. Blomkin is recorded as having executed tens of thousands of prisoners by his own hand, including
God
his
damn.
killing of 7,000 Polish prisoners of war during the Katian massacre in spring of 1940, making him the most prolific official executioner in recorded world history. He was forced into retirement in 1953 after the death of Stalin and condemned during the de-Stalinization shortly before his death in 1955, where the last person he killed was himself. They literally had red rooms with sloped floors under the Kremlin where they would take these people in and they would use a Luger, because then they could blame these, even though the timing was different, but this is again before forensic science, and they would shoot their prisoners in the back of the head, and he was able to bring somebody in, shoot him in the back of the head with a 9 milli, drag him out of the room, and then wash down the blood to bring somebody else in. And he was able to do, and he did this personally by hand, and was able to do is like one every 30 or 20 seconds or
God
something like
damn.
that, to where they would literally every day, by the end of the day, they would use people from the gulags to be digging out 2 to 3 football field sized trenches to throw the bodies in.
God damn.
Yeah.
Makes you really
And then
glad you didn't grow up in Russia.
yeah, dude, it was like 85%, and this is mainly due to World War II, but 85% or more. It's like 85 or 87% of Russian men born in the year 1918 were dead by 1945
Damn.
because of their losses during World War II. Yeah, I believe
Well, I mean, it probably
they
didn't
lost.
help that the Russian tank's main armor was more people.
Yeah, Russians have never had a problem with throwing people into a meat grinder. Makes them fascinating. But yeah, there's no book about this guy, and but yeah, this dude was gnarly, very gnarly dude. But I did a whole bunch of different research over a period of time, like looking at like who was the most, like who single-handedly probably killed the most people. But yeah, this guy, Vasily Blokhin,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm guessing when you started that kind of research, you were kind of like, well, it's probably going to be like some serial killer or something like that.
that's where your mind starts. But no, like when you get down to it, it's people who are put in positions of power by governments who do it, typically.
And somehow
Yeah.
I'm also not surprised it was the Russians.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
Oh my
at
God, do
all.
they love.
Like, if it's going to be anybody, it would be the Russians.
Hmm. But yeah, you would think that it would be something like unknown, like I said, like Genghis Khan, or like you said, like a German machine gunner or World War One. Like, how do you even know, sort of thing. But it's like if you talk about actual documented people, and then you're just like, I cannot believe that this guy single-handedly pulled the trigger on more than 10,000 people. Like, how does one's brain even compute that? Like, how does that guy, who of course ended up killing himself, how does he even do, like, how are you physically capable of doing that? Like, you can only imagine the horrors that that guy's eyes saw. It's just like, Jesus Christ, like that's just such a, yeah, it's
Like, how does the human mind even comprehend that kind of thing?
hmm yeah. Well,
And that's
and
not even just like in, like, if you like actually look up like how much some of these people are worth, like Bill Gates or whatever the bald fuck's name is in charge of Amazon.
mhm.
I can't think of his name
Oh,
right
Jeff
now.
Bezos.
Yeah, that asshole. Like the sheer amount of money that they have, you can't even like imagine having that kind of money in front of you.
Oh yeah,
And then you take that
yeah,
and you replace it with having that amount of people in front of you, and it just gets infinitely worse.
yeah. Well, I mean, so like for instance, you take like that guy who is such a monster, literally did it by hand with a pistol. And then you read about like Albert Pierpoint, this guy. So he was born in March 30th, 1905 and died in 1992. Okay. So this guy died after we were born. Okay.
Yeah.
He was an English hangman who executed between 435 and 600 people in his 25-year career that ended in 1956. His father Henry and uncle Thomas were official hangmen before him. Okay, so this guy, it's who they use to hang. I'm pretty sure he's the one who hung the Nazis after the Nuremberg trials.
Good.
Um, yeah. Um, so Pierpoint knew from an early age that he wanted to become a hangman and was taken on as an assistant executioner in September of 1932, age 27. His first execution was December that year alongside his uncle Tom. In October 1941, he undertook his first hanging as lead executioner. During his tenure, he hanged 200 people who had been convicted of war crimes in Germany and Austria, as well as several high-profile murders, including Gordon Cummins, the Blackout Ripper, John High, the Acid Bath Murderer, and John Christie, the Rillington Place Strangler. He undertook several contentious executions. Um,
Really gotta
and
wonder if
a
we
whole bunch.
stopped giving serial killers cool names, would there be less of them?
Uh, I think the fact that there's not as many as like there were in the 70s is due to the fact that we now use unleaded gasoline. Like I'm serious about that. I think that that has a huge factor in it.
Well, probably the
So,
fumes, yeah.
yeah, well, just literally because lead makes people do crazy shit. Um,
Well, doesn't
but
lead isn't lead counted as like a psychoactive or something like that?
Yeah, it literally makes people go nuts when they get high enough amounts of it in their blood. So that's why like the golden age of serial killing is like the 70s, because there was a shitload of leaded gasoline. And it was literally they put lead in the gas because it helped with combustion. But it literally put lead vapor in the air and then you would breathe it. Um, but
But at the
anyway,
same time, it's also like the guy you said, the something Ripper. Like, let's just go like Jack the Ripper. Like that's
mhm.
like it's a name that inspires fear.
Well,
But if you
and
had the guy called Jack the Tiny Dick, I'm pretty sure less people would be afraid of him.
true, and the reason they do that was to sell, like to sell magazines and shit. Which, by the way, did you know that one of his crime scenes, it's like his second or third crime scene in the year 1888, is the first crime scene photo ever taken
Yes, I
in
do because we studied
policing
that photo.
history? Oh, really?
Yep,
I didn't
that was
know
in one of
that.
my classes that I took back at uni.
I found out that that was the first crime scene photo ever taken, and I thought that was so fascinating. It was from freaking Jack the Ripper. But anyway, the reason I brought up Albert Pierpoint, just to conclude that really quick, is he, instead of being like this Russian state executioner, which literally just shoot him in the back of the head, throw him in a ditch, this guy was all about like doing it in a way of where it was like as ethical as possible, which is why he did hanging and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
snap the neck, make it over quick.
yeah, well, he wrote in his memoirs in 1974, in which he concluded capital punishment was not a deterrent, although he may have changed his position subsequently. He approached his task with gravitas and said that the execution was sacred to me. His life has been included in several works of fiction, such as the 2005 film Pierpoint, where he was portrayed by Timothy Spall, which I've seen Pierpoint. It's a good movie, but it's where it kind of goes over like how he did stuff and how you don't he didn't deride the prisoners. It wasn't like you would think of like medieval executions. It was
It wasn't
it
done
was
for the pleasure of killing. It was done because it
no.
was something that it's a job. It's something somebody had to do.
And then it was done to a standard and to kill them in a quick fashion to snap their neck and kill them so that they weren't sitting there and and it was because a lot of the guys who were state executioners before this for the British were drunks and did not treat it like it should, and there was too many times where people would not die in the way it was intended. It turned into this like super grotesque thing. But yeah, he the way that he handled it, I thought was really interesting. But I read a book about Albert Pierpoint, and I was kind of fascinated with that. Talking about again is always stuff that's pretty heavy shit, but but I found that to be really interesting. How does somebody deal with that psychologically in their brain of being the person that has to take out the trash of society, so to speak, especially because again he was alive until 92, which is 2 years after I was born. So we exist in the world at the same time as this guy who hung people for the state, 600 people. Pretty gnarly. But they're evil sons of bitches. So yeah, pretty gnarly shit. Pretty gnarly shit.
That might have also been the inspiration. I don't know if you ever played the game The Suffering.
Oh, uh-huh.
I
That's a
think
good
that
game.
might have been the inspiration for how Hermes in that game kind of saw it as because he was the executioner there.
Hmm. It's been
And
a
the way
while. That
he
was on the
describes it
PS2.
is if like you had plenty of people applied for it, psychopaths, murderers. I was the only one who took it as an actual profession. I was the
Hmm.
only one who would admit that this is a job. This is not something I have to do. This is something I'm choosing to do. But I'm not
Hmm.
doing it because it brings pleasure. I'm doing it because it has to be done.
Hmm.
Like that's kind of his whole thing. Is like one of his lines is, "Death is our stock and trade here at Abbott. The final solution. I am one of the few who admit that."
It's crazy that that's just a game nowadays that just wouldn't be made unless it was made by an independent developer. It's just
It was
not
made
like a
by
mainstream.
Midway.
Yeah, I know.
And then they tried to make a
It's
second one, and it didn't do quite as well.
yeah. I'm not familiar with the second one, but I am familiar with the first one. That is a good game, and the fact that you could change your form and become that monstrous creature and
Which it
stuff.
turns out that's not an actual physical change. That's literally just Torque going fucking nuts. Which is described in like all the journal entries that you find on all the creatures is written by another prisoner who you actually help escape if you're playing the good guy.
hmm
You get to he sets off in a like little tiny raft. But all this, what he says about it is, this isn't really a physical transformation; it's a mental one. Torque
And
doesn't
that's
actually turn into this monster. He just blacks out for that time, and it becomes nothing but violence.
Hmm.
And then after that ends, he kind of comes back into control.
Hmm.
So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't really know how to really. I can't be as articulate as Civ 11 was when he was talking about it, because he's like, yeah, it just kind of turns out that Torque's just barehand killing all these things,
oh, that's wild.
and he only thinks he's turning into a monster.
But it's not a real transformation. That's just how the game displays it. How interesting.
Yeah, it's how he mentally like displays this other side of him that he can't really remember ever having, because every time it happens, he blacked out.
Hmm.
Which also explains why he can't remember a lot of like the crimes that he committed, was because it was in this other side. Like that's the whole reason for his amnesia at the start of the game is like, oh, he won't say, claims he blacked the whole thing out. It was like, well, that's
Mhm.
because if you're playing the evil version, it was essentially the beast that did it.
Hmm.
And he can't remember it because anytime he transforms into that thing, he's literally like locking his actual consciousness away to let the violence take over. The only difference
Hmm.
is he's doing it willingly in the game.
Oh, how interesting. Yeah, it's been forever since I've thought about that.
And then the second one didn't make any sense at all with the way they tried to do it. Like I can
Yeah,
see them
me.
like remaking the game now, like doing a remake, but I don't know who owns the rights to it anymore because Midway doesn't exist anymore.
Um, that made me think of God, what the hell was there was Manhunt. The fact that there was games like that who actually like had such gnarly depictions of stuff, like we really grew up and during the seventh generation and didn't know how good we have it or how good we had it. It's unbelievable.
Well, at least Manhunt like made sense in that it wasn't like a universe thing. It was this little tiny isolated thing. Like
Yeah,
in the
but it's
story,
just
it's like this isn't like, oh, it's not like the Purge. It's literally like just some sick fuck making a prisoner kill people for entertainment on video.
Mhm. But it's just the fact that there was games like that that were actually made,
And they
like
had
that
sequels.
had such, yeah, that had such, yeah, I mean, that had such dark subject matters. Like one's taking place in a prison the entire time, and then
Well, here's the thing with
uh,
the suffering is all the monsters are actually real. It is not like figments of your imagination like Silent Hill tried to do, which backfired
hmm,
spectacularly. But all the
hmm,
actual creatures called the Malforms in the suffering are real. They are all actually real creatures that escaped into our dimension somehow.
hmm,
So all of them are real, but Torque's transformation into the beast is not.
hmm.
Like they are very specific that these monsters are all real. They are all actual physical beings on this island trying to kill everybody.
I
They
did
are
not
not
know
in
that.
your head. They are real monsters. But the only thing that's in
I,
your head is you turning into a monster to take them out.
I gotta look into that game again. It's been so long since
I
I've.
highly recommend Civies video on it because he plays the evil. He plays an evil run.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Civi
How
does an evil run, and then someone else who did it that I watched for a Halloween thing. I'm trying to remember who it was. Played like a
I
good
rem-
run.
the last time I saw anything about that
Although
game was
Civi
a
also
while
found a
ago.
gun called the Gonzo gun, which is literally a chicken.
I
And if you know
think
why it's called that, you probably watched The Muppets growing up.
well, the guy, the internet historian who does like those explained videos
Yeah,
about different games and their stories, I think he did one on The Suffering, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that game because I remember seeing something about it that was funny, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But yeah, dude, what a
Totally
wild
Pointless
game.
TV did the other side of that, where he played like the good run,
Hmm.
and Civi did the evil run because why not? Well, they're all gonna die anyway. I might as well be on my hand. So yeah, you're an evil guy for wanting to get a gun just 5 minutes earlier than you find one.
Oh. Oh, dude, you know, it's crazy is I haven't even talked about what is probably my favorite book that I read throughout high school. And I know you're gonna know what it is. Is
Probably.
do you remember Battle Royale?
Yes.
Which there is a awesome movie about it, but
And there's a ton of rip-offs of it, like
The Hunger
the Hunger
Games.
Games. Yeah, the one I don't even want
Yeah.
to remember because it honestly wasn't that great.
Yeah, dude. Koshin Takami. That is God, that is such a good book. I wish I still had my copy of that book. I don't know what happened to it. That's what I should be buying with my extra money that I have on my Amazon account. Um, so Battle Royale, for anybody who is not familiar, is about a class of 42 Japanese students in a dystopian future where basically the Japanese won World War II and they took over a large swath of like they took over Korea and China and all this stuff, and they're like this fanatical government. And every year they pick one class of kids out and then take them to an island where they force them to murder each other until there is one child left, and then that kid is brought forth like in front of the news as kind of like a propaganda thing, and it's a way to force like compliance with rebellious youth and stuff like that. And the main character, Shuya Nanahara, was obsessed with what the hell is that piece of shit? So the guy who sings "Born in the USA," Bruce Springsteen. He plays guitar and plays Bruce Springsteen songs, which you're not allowed to take in anything from the West, and then so he gets in trouble for stuff like that. But basically, he is put on this island with all of his friends and classmates, and they're forced to murder each other, and it is so good because unlike I mean,
It
I
doesn't
didn't
try to
read
have
in
like
the,
a moral message.
well, I mean, it talks about, so like, it has some social commentary and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's not
Um,
heavy-handed smashing you over the head with it like Hunger Games tries to do.
no, it's not like that, and it's not about like overthrowing the government or anything. The entire thing takes place on the island. And then there's like an epilogue part afterwards with, because I don't want to ruin anything, but that happens off of the island at the very end of it. It is so good. But so here, let me see if I can find a little um summary of it real quick here. I don't want to talk about the movie. Uh, no, let me talk. Not Battle Royale, the film. Oh yeah. Even it's funny because um I have the book, the manga, and the movie, and all three are different than one another. And American, the translated version of the Battle Royale manga, which is way more fucking graphic,
Of course
way
it
more
is.
sexual and stuff like that. But they changed the words. They didn't straight translate everything, and they changed what's going on. It's so stupid. Um, but I have all 15 of those mangas too. Um, oh my gosh, come on. So, the book tells the story of junior high school students who are forced to fight each other to the death in a program run by the fictional fascist totalitarian Japanese government known as the Republic of Greater East Asia. The dystopian novel, blah, blah, blah. So Battle Royale takes place in fascist Japan in the year 1997. The state is known as the Republic arose after World War II, where the Japanese emerged victorious and rebellion was put down by the combined military and police forces. The government, which controls everything alongside an unnamed dictator with a strong cult of personality, able to bend the whims of the populace. Anything immoral, such as rock and roll, is banned unless it beautifies the government. Um, so, the government establishes a military program, the Battle Experiment Number 68 program, wherein 50 randomly selected classes of third year junior high school students are kidnapped, dropped into a remote island, and forced to kill one another until only one student of each class remains. Ostensibly, it is to help the government and its military research survival skills and battle readiness. In actuality, it is meant to instill terror and distrust in Japan's citizens to curb any attempts at rebellion by showcasing the government's power and the ability to target citizens' family and preying on the fear of being killed by a friend. So, yeah, and I could tell you all 42 of the kids' names, 21 boys, 21 girls, um, how each of them died in all three versions, and what the differences, what the major differences were, including body counts of the main. There's two kids, a boy and a girl, that are like the main killers throughout every version, and they are pretty gnarly. So Kozu Kiriyama is the main male killer, and Mitsuko Sonoma are Suuma is the main girl killer, and yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. But it takes place over like 3 days. There's a grid system. They're all wearing explosive collars, and if they read out on the grid like A6, and they have basically a map of the island and a grid like battleship, and then I think it's like every 6 hours or something like that. They make certain grids where you can't walk into them, and if you do, your collar will explode. And there's only actually one person in the entire book that dies from that, and he doesn't do it by being ignorant and just walking into it. He's tricked because it's a guy that is following the main killer, whose idea is that he's going to watch this kid kill all these other people, and then when he thinks he's the last one left, he's going to pop out and shoot him and kill him so that he can be the last one left alive. And then so they read out that the grid that they're in is going to be taken off, and then he watches him go into this bathroom, and he can hear him peeing in there, and he's like, "What the fuck? Like, come on, like we gotta go." But I gotta keep my eyes on. He's like, "Fuck, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna go kill him now and sneak in there because I don't want to lose sight of him by escaping out of here." And then he goes into the bathroom, and the guy had hung up a bottle and cut a hole in the lid and had escaped because he knew he was following him. And then that's how he dies when his collar explodes because he's not able to make it out in time. Yeah, it's pretty awesome shit. But yeah, Kozo Kiriyama, the leader of the delinquents, who is the smartest and one of the most athletic students in the class. He's emotionless due to damage suffered in an accident while in utero, leading to a partial lobotomy. He actively takes part in the program, killing his fellow students remorselessly. His mother was in a car crash, and a little splinter of metal goes through her stomach and impacts his brain. And then so it makes him like an absolute sociopath. And but he's also he's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like Rain Man, where they're like autistic and can do anything. Like when they can just like pick it up and do it the first time. He's like a prodigy, basically. I forget what
Yeah,
the
there is
word is.
Prodigy.
Well, so there's a kid in class who's absolutely obsessed with like class and stuff like that, and he is not the class, but like with like classiness, and he learns the
Status.
violin status. There we go. And he learns the violin because he thinks it's above like like Shuya who knows the guitar and shit like that. and he practices it for years, and that's like his thing. And he hates Kiriyama because he picks up the violin one day and then becomes better than him at it in like a day and then throws it away because he's just that talented. He can literally do anything that he puts his mind to. And he decides in the very beginning of the book, after he gets released, and he sneaks notes to the members because he's like the leader of a gang, to like these six other people in his gang to meet him on on like the most southern tip of the island or whatever, and then he flips a coin to decide whether or not he's going to participate or not. And then it lands on tails, so he decides he's going to participate and kill everybody because if it had landed on heads, he would use his brain to figure out a way off the island and fight the government. But it landed on tails, so he decides to kill people. Like
Damn
it's
it.
yo, dude, it's gnarly. And then
Fucking
of
coin
course,
flips.
dude, and then Mitsuko, who her weapon is a sickle, which I actually kind of briefly became obsessed with sickles because of this. Um, she is a leader of a female gang. Having been sexually abused several times as a child, she actively takes part in the program using her sexuality to kill her male classmates. And oh God, does she! Even though her first victim is a girl, there's a girl hiding under a table, and I think she has a gun or a knife or something like that. And then she's hiding in this cabin, and she hears somebody coming through because they're given a backpack and they're all told, and then they leave like 10 minutes apart from the classroom after they are told, after they're literally gassed on a school bus on a trip, and then they all wake up in a classroom, are given the education that basically, hey, you're in the program, this is what's going to happen, here's a backpack with a map, water, bread, and a random weapon. And your weapon could be a paper fan or it can be an Uzi. Like it could be all sorts of different shit. So this girl, I think she has like a knife or something. She's hiding under a table, and then she sees another pair of legs come in, and it's Mitsuko, and she's like, "Oh my God, it's this bitch. She's like the leader of a gang. She's mean to everybody, and she's just horrible." And then Mitsuko discovers her under the table, and the girl like freaks out and is like, "I'll fucking kill you, bitch," and blah blah blah. And then Mitsuko just starts crying. And then she's like, "Oh my God, you think of me like that? You think that I'm a murderer just because and then like goes off on this like little story, and like it's like a tragedy, and you're just like, "Oh my God." And the girl like thinks to herself, "I completely like misjudged this chick. This is what the program is doing to us," and blah blah blah, and gives her a hug, and
And falls for it.
Mitsuko, yeah, slits her fucking throat there. Like it's brutal, dude. You're just like, "Oh my God." But yeah, and then there's a transfer student named Shogo who everybody's afraid of him because he didn't grow up with all the other kids like they did, so nobody really knows anything about him. But then you find out, dun dun dun, that he was in the program in a previous year and was a winner. And he is on the island because he wants to get back at these people. And then um, he's a transfer student from Kobe that is 1 year older than the rest of the class and covered in scars. He's a loner and unbeknownst to his classmates, won the program the previous year. He teams up with Nanahara and Nakagawa as part of a plan to escape the island together because he wants to have more than one person survive to screw up the whole plan of the government because he knows how the game works and stuff. And he has a SPOS 12 shotgun. And it's pretty fucking awesome,
One
dude.
of the few
But
things
yeah.
that's good French made.
Which, by the way, shot show this year, there is which happened in Vegas like last week. There is a company, this is total side note, a company that has an American made recreation of the SPOS 12, so you don't have to pay 12 grand to get one.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's a reproduction model, and it looks fucking awesome. And it has some things on it that like make it a little bit more useful, but otherwise it looks exactly the same. It's fucking rad.
Of course.
But but yeah, it's I can't. I think Battle Royale is. Oh yeah, look, there's the cover. My favorite one, the cover of the first English language edition. That's the one that I had, where it shows a boy and a girl on the cover in silhouette, and then the space in between their arm his left arm and her right arm is actually a rifle, which I didn't realize until like having it for a couple weeks. I was like, oh shit, it's like 600 and something pages. I started it. I remember it was like I think it was like the last day of sophomore year. I had got that from a kid that we were friends with in high school. And then I ended up reading the entire thing in just like a couple weeks and became absolutely obsessed with it and read it like 4 or 5 times. But yeah, it's really good shit. I really enjoyed that book. And I don't know why the guy who wrote that did not sue the shit out of the chick who did the Hunger Games because she literally ripped off so much of what that is. But of course his version I thought was so much better. Um
Yeah, the Hunger Games is just
so
like a pale imitation, which is
yeah.
why I never got into it. It was like everyone was like, "Oh, it's such a great book." It's like this is just battle royale. Like
Mhm.
even I know what this is, and I never read it.
Oh my gosh, I love. So I'm just gonna read this real quick. So in 1990s, Koshin Takami came up with the original story concept for Battle Royale after having a dream. Takami stated in 2009 that I was lying on my futon, half asleep, half awake, and I got a mental image of a teacher from a school drama I saw on TV long ago. He said, "All right, class, listen up. Now today I'm going to have you kill each other." The image of him grinning as he spoke was so vivid. I laughed but was also terrified, and with that, I knew I had something to write about. He came up with the title Battle Royale after discussing his story concept with his friends and said it sounded like a reimagined pro wrestling battle royale match. Takami then took an interest in the social aspect of a battle royale match, such as how former enemies work together in order to defeat a stronger foe, and particularly how former allies betray each other for their own glory. For the world building, he was inspired by his upbringing in 1960s Japan when large group of revolutionaries fought back against police brutality. His depiction of totalitarian fascist government was also influenced by his favorite Stephen King novel, The Long Walk, which was about a walking contest organized by a totalitarian government. I didn't know that he was influenced by that. That's
Wasn't there
so
also a
crazy.
movie with that?
That yeah, it just came out. It's one of his Richard Bachman novels. So
Okay.
he had written under a pseudonym with even like a fake picture of a guy on the back um, as um, as Richard Bachman, which he got from Bachman is from Bachman Turner Overdrive because he was looking at two things that were on his desk, and I forget where Richard came from, but it's something funny. But yeah, he wrote Rage, The Long Rock Road Work, and The Running Man under Richard Bachman, and a lot of people
Okay.
know what The Running Man is. But
Well, a
yeah,
lot
they
of people
turned the
know
long
the Arnold Schwarzenegger Running Man
yeah, and then they just made a new one, and
that
then The
nobody
Long
liked.
Walk. Yeah, and The Long Walk just came out. I actually just watched that movie like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Um, and it has Mark Hamill in it. But the one that I actually want to read more than any of them is the one that people don't like the most. It's just called Rage.
Isn't
This is
that
one of the
like
ones
a
that
Carrie one kind of thing?
no. Okay, here, let me read you about this because I've always wanted to buy this book, but I have never got to, but I've read a whole summary about it, but I've always wanted to. Rage is a psychological thriller novel by American writer Stephen King that was first published under a pseudonym Richard Bachman. It was published in 1977 and was collected in 1985 hardcover omnibus The Bachman Books. The novel describes a school shooting and it has been associated with several real-life high school shooting incidents in the 1980s and 90s. In response, King allowed the novel to fall out of print. In 2013, in the wake of Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, King published the anti-firearms essay Guns. So he wrote a book about a school shooting, and he is not a fan of it because apparently it's like, you know, and it has some people read it and then said that it inspired them, which is all bullshit. Like people do crazy shit. They don't need books or whatever or media to inspire them. Blah blah blah. That's like blaming Taxi Driver and shit, or the Beatles for Helter Skelter and shit like that. It's
Or
all
even more recently, just blaming video games and violence, and that's been statistically proven to be false.
Yeah, it's retarded. So in May of 1976, Charlie Decker, a high school senior in Placerville, Maine, of course, is called to a meeting with his
Because
principal
nothing
about
good
the
ever happens in Maine.
yeah, about the cause of his suspension 2 months earlier, an incident in which he struck his chemistry teacher with a pipe wrench, leading to the teacher's hospitalization. After repeatedly insulting the principal, he is expelled. Storming out of the office, Charlie retrieves a pistol from his locker and sets it its other contents on fire. Returning to his classroom, he fatally shoots his algebra teacher. The fire triggers an alarm, but Charlie forces his classmates to stay in the room, killing a history teacher when he attempts to enter. As the school evacuates, the police and media arrive. Over the following 4 hours, Charlie toys with the authority figures, attempts at negotiation, including the principal, the school psychologist, and the local police chief. He gives them certain commands, threatening to kill students if they do not comply. Charlie admits to his hostages that he does not know what has compelled him to commit his deeds, believing he will regret them when the standoff is over. As his fellow students start identifying with Charlie, he unwillingly turns the class into an impromptu psychotherapy group, causing the participants to semi voluntarily tell embarrassing secrets regarding themselves and each other. But yeah, it's so apparently Jennifer Lynn Cox was here at San Gabriel High School in San Gabriel, California, took a semi-automatic rifle to school April 26, 1988, and held a humanities class of about 60 students hostage for over 30 minutes. Cox held the gun to one student. The teacher doubted Cox would cause harm and started to see that he would prove it to her. Um, he was told the press. A friend of Cox told the press that Cox had been inspired by the Kuwait Airways Flight 422 hijacking and by the novel Rage. So there's holy shit, there's like 6 or 7 of these where they say it has something to do with the book. But yeah, I've always wanted to read it because it's like one that King doesn't like and it's not in print anymore, so it's hard to get a hold of and stuff.
Yeah.
It's but it's not like for instance like a famous
It doesn't
banned book.
glorify it by any means.
No, well, and it's fiction and shit like that. So, but there's like, have you ever heard of the Turner Diaries?
Nope. But we should probably save that for next time because we are approaching 2 hours 50 minutes, and I still need to eat something.
Oh, no shit. Well, let me just tell you real quick about what this is because people are going to be like, what the fuck? So, the guy, the Oklahoma City bomber, had this on him. It is a novel by William Luther Pierce, the founder and chairman of the National Alliance, an American white nationalist group. One,
Of
um,
course.
they, this book is written by a white supremacist who literally, it's like a fictional version. So, the Turner Diaries was described as explicitly racist and anti-Semitic by the New York Times. The book has been influential in shaping white nationalism and the later development of the white genocide conspiracy theory. It has inspired numerous hate crimes and acts of terrorism, including the 1984 assassination of Alan Berg and the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. It is estimated to have influenced perpetrators in over 200 killings. And I was like, what is this? I ended up reading it. It's total fucking trash. It's just, it's like, it's like white supremacy fan fiction horseshit. Like it's totally retarded and about a tyrannical American government coming down on white people and all this other stuff. But I was like, what? Because I had heard about it because of the Oklahoma City bombing. I was like, what is this? And then there's a whole PDF of it online. You can read it or whatever. But it's such terrible writing. Of course, like it would be, but it's not as much of
Yeah,
a
I wouldn't
slog to
expect that
get
to
through.
be a good comprehensive story. I'm pretty sure it would have
No,
been like complete
no.
shit.
And but the guy who wrote it wrote a whole bunch of other like stupid white supremacist like stories and stuff like that that were semi-popular with some groups of people like KKK people
Of
and
course.
like neo-Nazis and shit. It's so dumb. But I was like, how is this that influential? I think they give it way more credit than what it is,
Probably.
than like its actual influence or whatever. But it's like in like the realm of banned books, like the Anarchist Cookbook, which has a whole bunch of shit that is dangerous or will actually kill you if you do it, and just stupid. But I got super interested in finding out about books that you're like quote unquote not supposed to read and stuff like that. Of course, like Mein Kampf and all the rest of that, but that is just incomprehensible fucking garbage. Oh my god, it's so stupid. Like if you actually try to read Mein Kampf, your fucking eyes will roll in the back of your head because just it's just a bunch of I mean obviously it's horseshit because it's written by Adolf Hitler, right? But it's like incomprehensible fucking gobbledygook. Like there's no through line. It's just angry fucking writing and like all this, you know. Anyway, I I got super interested in finding out about banned books and stuff like that, and the Turner Diaries always pops up and all that shit. But again, you can read it online, but it's total dog shit. It's so bad. It's like worse writing than 50 Shades of Grey. You wouldn't believe it.
Wow, that's actually impressive.
Oh, dude, it's so bad. It's just
Wasn't
again.
yeah, wasn't Twilight like is it Twilight was a fan fiction starting of 50 Shades of Grey or the other way around?
So 50 Shades of Grey was a fanfic of Twilight, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm also not mistaken, 50 Shades of Grey is like one of the best-selling books of all time, right behind the Bible.
Why am I
How
somehow also not surprised?
copies of 50 Shades of Grey were sold? Let me look this up real quick. 50 Shades of Grey was sold over 15.2 million copies in the U.S. alone in 9 years, making it the top-selling book of the decade. Worldwide, the entire trilogy has sold over 150 million copies, and the series has been translated into 52 languages. The
God
trilogy
damn.
surpassed 100 million copies in February 2014. It's such dog shit, though. Oh my god, it's unreadable fucking dribble. It's so stupid.
Like, ladies, you do know porn is a thing, right? You
Well,
do
I
know you
get
can
that
go and watch videos that are better than this book for free on the internet, right?
it's lady porn, and it's just because ladies don't have boners that show through their pants when they read nasty shit. Like it'd be like seeing a girl read 50 Shades of Grey is the same, or any of those other romance novels, or like any of that other shit is the same thing as seeing a guy sitting there reading a Playboy. And I do not understand how culturally it's treated any differently. I think it's so gross because it's literally just chicks taking in porn, but they're doing it in public. But I'm not supposed to give a shit. And it's just like, no, I don't want to hear about your nasty book, dude. That shit is gross. like, like a
This
girl,
comes from
like,
the
no,
guy who probably spent the last hour talking about hardcore books.
well, okay, they're not pornographic. Except for maybe that book on killing. There was some stuff in there where I was just like, Jesus. But no, I
What
mean,
was it? The Silent Hill 2 creative team said was their ideas for Silent Hill like the concepts of sex and death being like the main driving force of most of humanity.
that I have no doubt. Oh man, which by the way, new Silent Hill movie out. I hear it's dog shit.
Of course it is.
Of course, because everything that comes out with Silent Hill, except for apparently the Silent Hill 2 remake, was actually pretty good.
Well, the Silent Hill
If I'm
2
not
remake
mistaken.
was good, but it's also because Silent Hill 2 is the best Silent Hill 2 game, except maybe 3.
Yeah, I do
And
like
they had
Silent
a
Hill.
foundation to work with, so if they fucked it up that badly, they had a script to follow.
Yeah,
But
but
it's
I
also
mean,
Konami, who tried to make a Silent Hill fucking pachinko machine.
well, didn't oh gee, they
Well,
make
I
a
shouldn't say
pachinko
they
machine
tried
at
to,
every.
they did.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, never underestimates Konami's ability to turn something into like to monetize something in a way that it should never have been. Just should we make an actual like good version of this? Like no, turn it into a pachinko machine.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, never underestimate their ability to fuck something up. But yeah, like and in defense of myself for talking about like me reading some gnarly shit, none of the stuff I'm reading is porn. Like those books are
Yeah.
not books, they're lady porn. And it's just like I find that like again to be like the same as like a dude watching porn in public. It's just women take it in differently than how dudes do. Dudes are visual, whereas girls are more psychological. And then so I just don't understand why that is so okay in culture that girls can read that shit in public. It's like, dude, you're literally reading porn right now. Like, it's just because you don't have a lady boner that's popping through your pants that we can all see what you're doing. But
And because
otherwise, it's the same shit.
the cover of the book is literally just a freaking tie.
Yeah. But still, again, see, that's just talking about like how males look at the book.
Well, that's
Because
all we
again,
see in the book is like I tried reading some of it and I just could not.
oh, I did too.
I
Because of
could
course,
write better than that.
oh, it's
And I
dog
used to
shit.
write fan fiction.
Dude, and Twilight is so much better than that book. Like, it's like if you try to read 50 Shades of Grey and then you read Twilight, you'd be like, this is a fucking masterpiece in comparison to that piece of shit. He's unbelievable. That book fucking blows. And then
Why
they
am I
gave
not
the
surprised?
then they gave the movie a bunch of shit, and it's just like, dude, the movie is considerably better, which I've never watched the movie, but I know
I
it's
had
better than
to.
that fucking dog
I
shit.
didn't have a choice in the matter because it was while
It
I was
was at the
working at the
movie
movie
theater?
theater. While I was working at the movie theater, the last two movies of the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy came out. And
Oh my
fuck
god.
me, it was bad.
Oh, were they? Were they
Yes.
terrible?
The
Were they better
things
than the
I
book,
saw, because this was at the same time we had to check bags because there had been a theater shooting. So we had to check everybody's bags, and of course I was being called a freaking racist by every black person in the Bay Area.
though? Well, you are. No, I'm just kidding. Because you had to go through their bags, and there's
Yeah,
all
because
these
we had to
girls
go
bringing
through the
in
bags
nasty
to make
shit.
sure that they weren't carrying a freaking gun to kill people.
Was that after the Dark Knight shooting?
It
Or
was
like,
way
what was
after.
that?
It was like some shooting in Tennessee or something.
Oh, jeez.
But it was our theater chain, so of course we had to do the bag check thing for like months. It didn't help that it was actually fairly close to when Straight Outta Compton came out, so of course it was racist.
Oh
Yeah, but during
my
that
god.
time, the last 50 Shades of Grey came out, and we had to check it, and the things I saw in those bags,
Still to this day.
I cannot get enough bleach to take that memory away from my brain.
Oh my god, that is hilarious. Holy shit, that's funny. Oh, you poor bastard. That's so funny. Dude, Straight Outta
I'm just
Compton,
glad
by
I
the way,
didn't
is a
have to
good
clean up
movie.
after it.
Oh,
Because
gross.
I was doing the ticketing. I had to check bags and do tickets. I didn't get to clean.
Oh, thank God. Oh, that is too funny. But anyway, well, we can end it on that note if you want.
We're nearly 3 hours, and we do have part 2 on Friday.
Which I would love to participate in. It all just depends on what time and if I can, if my boys will behave long enough for me to participate. But who knows? They were excellent last weekend. I probably could have done it last weekend, but we shall see. Maybe I'll just chime in on my phone for a few minutes.
Talk about kids' books.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would
I
be the
can
direct
talk.
opposite of what we had tonight.
I do actually, funnily enough, know a million kids' books because how often I read to my kids. So.
And there you go. So Friday night, hopefully we'll have you. Ebola said he'll show up Friday night, much earlier
Hell yeah.
in this podcast. Queen Comics and Comics Dad also say that they might be able to show up for that,
Fantastic.
and maybe Nishi as well.
That
So
would
we'll
be
definitely have a
awesome.
much bigger cast on Friday night for this. Hopefully around the same time, so around like 7 Pacific.
Yeah, and I bet you they probably won't talk about all the nasty books that I talked about.
No,
so.
probably not.
Hilarious. Hey, in my defense, I did start by talking about James Patterson books, but then it got into his gnarly books.
Yeah,
It's
it just kind of
it's not
escalated
my
from there.
fault.
And I think
Yeah,
I started
well-
this out by talking about scholastic book fairs and comic books. We went
I know, I didn't
way
even-
off track, way fast.
Yeah, I know. I didn't even talk about any of my comic books. The problem is I don't have my bookshelf or anything near me. You know, it's funny when you were talking about novelization. You and I actually own the same book series of all the Resident Evil books by
Yes.
S.D. Perry. I have all of those
And
books
they are
too. I'm
great
really
books.
into those. Yes, they are. They are
Except maybe
fantastic.
Caliban Cove, but that's because Caliban Cove isn't based on a game.
Yeah, it's not as good. It was like every other one. Zero was based on a book. The first one was based off the first game.
No, Zero was
second
based off the
one-
game.
Yeah,
Zero came out
absolutely.
after RE0 was released.
Yeah,
Just not
yeah,
after
I'm-
the re-release on the GameCube.
Caliban Cove, and then the one when they're in that underground facility
Yeah, Caliban
outside of
Cove
Nevada.
and Underworld.
Yes, those ones are not based off of anything.
No, those
Um,
are on their own.
yes, but I did enjoy those as well. Not as much Caliban Cove, like you're saying, but
And I will
um,
definitely recommend the 3 official game Halo books. For Fall of Reach, The Flood, and then First Strike are definitely great.
mhm. Oh,
Especially because
and
The
all the
Flood is based on the first game, and The Fall of Reach is the novelization that came before the game Reach, and they based pretty much all of it on the book.
well, and let me pull this up real quick. They also have, holy shit, I didn't know that they had that many. There are 8 Gears of War books,
Yes, there are,
which I,
and we had one.
which yes, Asfio Fields, which was really good. I enjoyed that one a lot. But and that's the first one, but there's Jacinto's Remnant, Anvil Gate, Coalition's End, The Slab, which is about Marcus in jail or like in prison, which I saw a video about that online. Apparently it's pretty interesting. You find out how he got the scar on his face and stuff like that. Ascendance, Bloodline, and a Furia Rising. But yes, and I also, side note, cannot freaking wait for the next Gears of War game.
Yes.
But
Well, we do have Resident Evil 9 next month.
oh, dude, yes, we should stream the shit out of it. You would be fun. Would be for both of us to play that together the first time. Are you? I don't. Is that coming out on PC?
Yes.
Or
I
oh,
think
nice.
I think it's actually on Steam right now.
Oh, nice. Because I was gonna
Looking
buy
at
it on
my
PS5.
bookshelf, like the first thing that stands out because I have 2 thick Alien omnibuses.
Fuck yeah.
One's from Dark Horse Comics, the other one's just an Aliens omnibus.
Hmm.
But I think, because I have Aliens Omnibus Volume 2, I think that is the Alien Earth one,
Oh, interesting.
which is
Well,
infinitely better than the show was.
oh, anything is better than that. But
Let
dude,
me
we
look in the
next
store.
month we should stream that game, playing it together for the
No, and
first
Headliner's just
time.
like $5.
Oh, nice.
Might look at
But
that too.
we should, dude, we should stream that next month after it comes
Yeah,
out.
Resident Evil
And
Requiem is on Steam.
nice. Well, we should play that together so that we can have both of our first time ever seeing it and playing it recorded, because I saw one trailer that came out when they first released the first trailer for the game, and I have literally imbibed no other content from that game because I want it all to be a surprise. Other than I know that Leon's in it, for Christ's sake, but it's
Yeah,
kind of hard to avoid that. But no, I
Leon's in it.
don't tell me anything else.
Well,
I
that's
know that
about
it has
it. Like, there's the I don't even know what this is from. Grace's costume Apocalypse. If you buy the deluxe edition,
just an alternate
I don't.
costume.
I guess, but I don't know what it's from. It kind of looks a little bit like Jill's outfit from the Resident Evil movies, like
Well,
the desert outfit from the third Resident
from the
Evil
third
film.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there
Deluxe edition
is.
gives you 8 costumes, 4 weapon skins, 8 filters. Go figure that one out. Audio packs, extra files, deluxe charm kits.
Well, isn't there
I don't
like
know.
a. Well, hold on. Isn't there like a crazy version that you can buy? Um,
I'm
there's
not
okay.
seeing
So
that. I
there's
just see pre-purchase
standard,
and pre-purchase deluxe edition, and it comes
deluxe
out on February
steelbook.
26th.
But there's like
Similar
a
to games
crazy.
you play, Dark Tide. I don't think Resident Evil and Dark Tide could be comparison.
Oh, that's hilarious. I thought that there was going to be
And
another.
tomorrow I have Code Vein 2 I can download.
Oh, nice.
And apparently it did get hit by the censor hammer coming over to the US. But I give it about a month before mods fix that.
What? I think they're only releasing the collector's edition in Japan. Motherfuckers.
Why am I not surprised?
Ah, yeah, I might just have to get the steelbook. That's such bullshit. The Biohazard Requiem collector's edition is currently confirmed for Japan.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I didn't get the Village Collector's Edition because I don't really care about the statues and stuff like that. I'll probably just buy the Steelbook Collector's Edition one, get some of the extra stuff. Sons of bitches. But yeah, dude, I am so stoked for that game. But we should totally stream that because that would be so fun for us to do it together and see all of what's going on in it for the first time. I wonder if it will look better on the PS5 or on your PC.
Probably on my PC, but that's because my PC already has better specs than the PS5.
True.
And the only thing I'd really need to do is like update my drivers.
Well, that would be awesome. So we should 100% do that. That would be sick AF, and then we can totally do it together. We can do a stream where I come over to your place, and then we can stream it together there. That would be sick.
That works for
We
me.
should do that.
I still
All
need to
right.
start. I still need to play more of SCP Fragmented Minds too.
Well, we have a little bit of time, like you said, like a month or
Yep.
something. Like what is it,
February
27 days
26th.
or something? Yeah, dude. Hell yeah. I'm so stoked for this. I cannot wait for this to come out. Obviously, we won't be able to beat it within a day, or at least I hope we won't
definitely
be able to
not.
beat it within a day.
No,
Whatever.
we shouldn't
So,
be able to.
but yeah, we should play it. It'd be cool if we could play it all the way through on stream. We should start that on Sunday, or what day of the week does that come out?
I'd say probably a Friday.
Would you say what was the release date again?
The 26th.
The 26th is a Thursday.
Wow.
Shit.
Why
And
is
then
everything
so
coming
I
out on
wouldn't be.
Thursdays all of a sudden?
So the earliest that I would be able, because I get my boys on a Thursday, would be the 1st, which is a Sunday. So right after I drop them off at 2 o'clock, we could start doing it on like the Sunday afterwards, and then continue it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah,
Maybe
that
get
would
it done
work.
over like a 4-day thing, stream it every night,
Yeah, we could
and
figure
then that
something
way
out
we
for
can
it.
continue it. That would
So,
be so sick.
to the one person who's still here,
Thank you.
hopefully look forward to that.
Yes, even though this isn't book related, but still, this
Well, it kind of is.
this
We were
is
talking about the Resident Evil books.
true, but still.
And there is
Everybody's
the
like, "Please, Jesus."
novelizations of the Resident Evil Wes Anderson movies.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, they all have a
That's very.
novelization of them.
I did not know that. That is so cool. You know, he's a dorky director, but you cannot beat his one of his first movies. Um, what the hell is that space movie with Lawrence Fishburne? Why am I Event Horizon?
Yeah.
Love that shit.
Which, if they had only released the uncensored version of that, because there was so much more.
Oh, I know. I've read about it online.
Well,
I've
apparently the
wanted it.
uncensored version also has like a lot more story elements to it that kind of make more sense of what happened.
I'm just like, why don't they have the script for that shit so we can at least read it?
They do. They just don't want to put it out.
But yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun.
And like I said, Friday
So
night will be part 2 of this. For the love of reading, part 2.
for the love of reading, yeah, I will do my best to pop in on that.
And hopefully we'll have more people there. We could probably have more people in the chat too. Thanks to
Yeah,
Error of Fate for being in with us for a while. Thanks to MCampEU for popping in. And
thank you for everybody.
Yep, thanks
Always
to
appreciated.
everybody who came in and watched. All 18 views. I'm very happy with that. That's probably better than our usual Hunt streams. I think we did better doing this than we did with Hunt.
They're like, Jesus, what is this guy talking about? Yeah, they're like, now we know what books not to buy. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with Red? This explains so much of his personality. Oh, Lord. But no, thank you. Per the usual, I always enjoy doing these pods with you, man.
I'm always just glad to have company because, like I said, if you listen to like the first 10, 20 minutes of this, I'm just rambling on my own and making no sense.
Yes, and sorry about that. Got lost in the sauce taking care of some stuff up the hill from here, but I'm glad that I made it down here and that we could put in a 3-hour one. Though I still enjoy the idea of the original topic that you had, where I think that this is a bit broader, which will make
Yeah.
it fun to have more people in.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely this was definitely more fun with more people because everybody has a favorite book.
Yeah,
Everyone has like
absolutely.
their favorite story genre. Everyone has their favorite books. Everyone has, the books that they remember kind of learning and growing up with.
Hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully
No,
we will see some of you guys on Friday. And hopefully we'll
absolutely.
have more people on Friday. And probably more
Yep.
time than probably 3 hours. It'll probably last longer.
Yeah, and I'll try to drop some hand grenades in the conversation if I'm able to jump in.
Sounds good to me.
All right, like, has any of you guys read 50 Shades of Grey? You're like, not again! Get out of here, you pervert! Nice. All right, well, thank you everybody that's been listening. We appreciate it.
Yep. And once again, I am Tobias. That's Red. And we will hopefully see everybody on Friday for the second live stream.
Thank you.